Hey, what's going on, Team Trek family? Welcome back to another episode. In the studio tonight, I got an awesome SF brother who is now working with these guys at JTFK9. So let's bring him in. Keith Holland, welcome to Team Trek Podcast.
Hey, brother. Ryan, first and foremost, thank you for having us out here, allowing us to not only tell my story, but also tell what the nonprofit's doing and how we're helping our brothers and sisters.
Brother, you know the deal. It's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to getting you out here, and you guys just met Quill, so he's just, I mean, to demonstrate the kind of work that you're doing. I've gotten a chance to spend a couple of days with you two now, and I don't know how to better validate what you're doing than to just show this guy, right? Like it's the work you're doing out there in the force, man. Like you saw a gap and you took action right away, and you filled it, and I got to see how it works in real time, man. So welcome, brother. Thank you for making the drive and taking the time to come out here. I want to start with kind of catching the audience up with where this all started, though, right? Can we go back and just start with where you're from and kind of tell us a little bit about how you grew up and kind of leading up into it?
Yeah, so same kind of background as most military kids. I was actual Navy brat. So my mom and dad, my earliest times I can remember was being in Sicily, and nothing specific, but banging pots and pans and getting to see pictures. So growing up in the Navy for the first couple of years of my life.
So you were born in Sicily?
I was born in Charleston, and the Navy, you know how they are. They're always on the go.
Sure.
Ships and everything. So I was only there maybe 6 months to a year, I believe. And then next thing you know, I'm going overseas with my family, with my mom and dad. So the only thing I really remember about it, though, is I can remember the young lady that used to kind of watch over me. I just kind of have a faint memory of her. And then some pictures, I can remember some pots and pans that I always played with. It was like I guess a toy of choice when I was young. So, I would have been a year and a half, 2 year old, but for some reason, those are some fond memories that I had about being over there. But of course, like any Navy brat, you're not there in one place long. So the next thing you know, we come back to the Charleston area, I believe, and then that's really when my story kind of begins, where it just kind of went on its own direction.
Okay, so military brat. So did your father end up making a whole career of it?
So he did, but he had to get out of active duty, and that's kind of where my mom and dad, they had a divorce. So okay. It was a dirty, nasty kind of divorce. I had to grow up quick, right? So I was no longer a child at 4 or 6, between 4 or 6 years old. I was turning into an adult.
So all about the same time, your first memories back in Charleston, and your parents are going through this divorce.
Yeah,
and
right about the time I'm old enough to start comprehending things and remembering things, or supposed to remember things, right? From my childhood. Was about the time when my parents started the divorce process.
Now, you said nasty divorce. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that?
Well, there was some infidelity there. There was some interactions with boyfriends and stuff that should never happened. It was just, and then I felt personally like I wasn't wanted at the time, because I think I was too much like my father, right? So my mom, I don't think my mom knew how to handle me, right, at the time. She was going through some things. Our parents lived totally different lives than what we think as kids.
Sure.
So they were going through things, and I think I maybe at that age held everything against her, and was pointing a finger at her and wanted to be with my dad. Right. And I also feel that my younger brother was 2 years younger. He was more like my mom growing up. So it was kind of cut and dry there. I was kind of the dad's kid. My baby brother was the mother's kid, right?
Okay.
So and there was kind of a line drawn there. I can remember in elementary school, she was coming to pick us up from school one day, and I can remember me running around the hallways, avoiding her, trying to stay away from her because I didn't want to go spend time with her.
Right.
Even though my dad tried, he tried to make me have a conversation and a relationship with my mom, but I don't think that relationship just wasn't there for some reason. I still to this day don't understand it, but I have forgiven it. Right. So on top of all that, I had to deal with the courts and the therapy sessions of, a kid going through a divorce and my dad trying to go for custody because my dad wanted complete custody of us. So, and I don't know all the ins and outs that happened between my mom and dad, but I received a lot of things that I shouldn't have received growing up. So at an early age. And I didn't even recall it until as part of the healing process later on in life.
Okay.
So I suppressed it all.
So you talked about having to grow up fast. Were you kind of a tough kid, or how'd you see yourself?
So I had to grow up as an adult. So I was the big brother. I had to be a protector. I had to kind of be the mom of the house because back in those days, the parents went to work and left kids at home by themselves. And my dad was a single dad. And so he had to rely on me to help out, even though I was still a kid.
Yeah, I mean, childcare wasn't really a thing back then. I remember, distinctly my dad calling the police station and saying, "Hey, is it okay if I leave my son at home overnight because I've got to go out of town?" And the police are like, "How old is he?" "Yeah, like if you think he's old enough to be by himself, then yeah, it's up to you." And it was that easy, which kind of that wouldn't fly today.
No, definitely not. So I grew up being an adult at 6 years old, cooking, cleaning. I had to help my dad with medical procedures that he had issues with from the Navy.
So you're caretaking.
I was caretaking for my father, and this was, I was elementary. I don't know. I don't know where the range for school is nowadays, but I was probably 8 years old, maybe.
Second, third grade.
Mm-hmm. So, and then comes in a stepmother into the picture. But she really tried her best to be part and be a mother to us kids, the boys. And at the time, she was my mother growing up. Like, she was there to help me through stuff. She was there to help my dad monetarily when he needed monetarily help. She was a big part of raising me as a kid because we didn't have much contact with my mother growing up. So I missed a big part of my life, and I think that added to some of my issues growing up. But a big part of my life, I didn't have that motherly love that you typically have as a kid. And, I was raised by my dad. My grandparents had a big hand in it. And we had this joke. Every time I'd get sick or something growing up, I would call home from school. And my grandmother would always be the one to pick up the phone. And I was a straight A student. I was very smart. School was it was easy for me, but I would call my grandmother and be like, "Grandma, I'm sick. You got to come get me," right? And we had this running joke. It was grandma-itis again.
Grandma-itis.
Yeah. So every time the phone rang and it was a school, the running joke was, "Well, little Keith's got grandma-itis again," because I was named after my dad. So my dad's Keith Holland as well.
Okay.
So my dad was in the Navy, so he didn't believe in juniors. So I was never named a junior. I was a second. So I was a spitting image of my dad. Like he molded me. He was a military guy, so I grew up wanting to learn about guns. And even though he got out of active duty for me and my brother, take us and to have custody, he still wanted to serve. So he decided to go back in the National Guard, or the Seabees, which is the reservists. And he finished out his career doing that. And he was part of the Gulf War. So we moved down to Gulfport, Mississippi. And his unit deployed out of Gulfport, Mississippi. And at that time, I was a little older. So I still wanted to serve people and help people, because that's what I did with my brother growing up. So I was a mini adult. So I was babysitting the neighbors' kids and stuff, and just making a little extra money to help out, because we didn't have much growing up. So the money that I did make, I bought stuff for like my brother and myself to have, like lickies and chewies and little snacks. And I remember we had this storage unit, and the Lay's work truck worked out of it. And every time we seen the Lay's work truck come down the road, it was a big smile, and we'd go collecting all the change, loose change we could find. Right. And we would go down there, and me and my brother or my cousin, and we would just get all the little, the spicy sausage dogs and all the different chips. And back then it was cheap, so we'd have $1 worth of change and was able to get 4 bags of chips and a couple of sausage dogs.
Oh, yeah.
But those memories are long gone now. I don't remember anything outside of those memories hardly at all anymore.
So, what was high school like for you? Were you an athlete or anything?
So I was an athlete. I varsited in football, basketball, baseball, and but I wasn't part of the crowd. Right? I never was part of any cliques or crowds. I always kind of stuck to myself. I was always, when I was hanging out, I was in the woods hunting, or on the lakes fishing, or rivers, or I had my grandpa's old Army gear, right? Because I was a 3rd generation family member in the military. Okay. So most of the males in my entire background has been military, Navy, Army, something. And so that's what I did. I was in the woods. Yeah, I wanted to be in the woods. I wanted to be scrounging for food and making my little pots of food on a little makeshift fire out in the woods, and just me learning about nature.
Adventure.
And adventure, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I miss those days, right?
The innocent days.
That it really was, right?
Yeah, when there wasn't the phones, it was you out in the woods and with nature and just doing your thing. You were just innocent, and you were absorbing God creation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the good days, and that kind of also is, like, all this stuff I'm telling you about. I miss it, right? And I'm slowly bringing it back in my life, and I'm just so happy that all this stuff is starting to come back, because I started in the National Guard.
Right. So right out of high school, you joined that.
Yeah. So I graduated high school, and I tried to go early. My dad would not sign for me. He said, if you're going to sign to join the military, you're going to do it yourself as a man. And I said, okay. He said, you got a year to think about it, because at the time you could have your parents sign at 17.
Right, as long as they'd sign you, right?
Yep. And so I had a choice to make. I had basic training lined up down at Fort McClellan, Alabama. I was going to be a military police, and I was going to start off in the National Guard. And I had a choice to make: either go to start college that summer, or start it when I got back from basic training. And I was like, well, why waste time? Let's just get the ball going, right? I don't have nothing else to do. What I'm going to do for 4 months before I have to go to the basic training, get in trouble, right?
Right, absolutely.
So I did a smart thing and started college, but ultimately it was not the right decision at the time. I was not ready for college. I get this acronym, like, I always get told I'm like this eagle that's looking to soar, and sometimes I got to get put in my cage to hold me back a little bit to keep me on the right path. And I probably should have waited to start college, because it didn't end good. I ended up having to drop out because I I don't even know why. I just could not transition from high school into a college environment and be totally responsible for myself and my actions.
Yeah.
You know, because I had my parents there to walk me through all that.
Sure.
And I think that's what the military gave me, right?
100%.
So when I finished up the summer and I ended up having to drop classes and whatnot, I ended up going to basic training down in Fort McClellan, and that was an eye opener to the outside world, because I never left my little small town of Bessemer City. You know, this is about 30 minutes west of Charlotte. I grew up in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
Okay.
And it's some redneck town. It was weird because it's not a racist town, but the town's still kind of segregated. Like the blacks are kind of living on one side of the community, the whites are kind of living on one side of the community. But we do everything together. It's weird, right? I think it's left over from old days, right?
Sure.
So that's where I grew up. So I grew up, Southern Baptist. My parents, they spanked me when I got punished when I needed to get punished, and probably 99% of the time I deserved it. There's only probably one time that I didn't, and my dad actually apologized for it years later, and said that he overdid it. And even to this day, I'm like, Dad, you did what you knew and what you thought, so I understand. But at the time, I took it hard. Like, I thought, why in the heck am I getting beat? I didn't do nothing wrong. And it wasn't a beating. It's just he got a little too excited. Sometimes it happens, right? So I grew up under a heavy hand. I deserved most of it, but I mean, it was black or white. My family, it was, you do something wrong, you get punished. You do right. Hey, you do right. But we didn't really get applauses and pats on the back.
It's learned behavior. Our parents got what they got, and they learned it how they learned it, right? Yeah. And then just kind of, we learn as we go with that kind of stuff, right? When it comes to raising kids. And so I appreciate that you're not super hard on your folks. I try to be pretty lenient too, because I make plenty of mistakes. I know they made plenty of mistakes. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
Now, one thing I did know is my dad always loved me. He was never afraid to say I love you, right? And that's one thing I can remember my entire life. I didn't always get that from my mother, but my dad,
he had your back.
My dad's had my back my entire life, and if it wasn't for him, honestly, I don't know how I would have turned up one, right? But he did make me into a man, and he did show me love and show me that love was there. But I was still missing it because I wasn't getting it from my mother. My grandmother was there, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of fall in that category, like a lot of the guys in our career path, the soft community, because I think we're thrown into a position of being protectors and providers at an early age.
That's right.
And I think that's part of a problem, because it gets pushed to the back of their head at an early age, and we learn to push things to the back. It's not to deal with now, and then it all catches up with us at a later date when the straw breaks the camel's back.
That's right.
So, I feel my childhood is not much different than most of the guys that I've worked with over the years.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I listen to a lot of the bros stories, and it's like we grew up the same, right? Very similar things, right? And I think it built that resilience in us that made us capable of what we were, right? Yeah. To take on those roles, the sheepdog roles, if you will. of the protector. So I appreciate that, man. So military background, Navy background, and now you're joining the Navy to be an MP.
So my dad wanted me to join the Navy.
Or I'm sorry, the National Guard.
The National Guard.
Now, is the National Guard, is that Army National Guard?
Army National Guard.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was right. So Army National Guard to be an MP.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So it's the weekend warrior thing,
Why
right?
MP?
Well, I was the type of guy that didn't want to be stuck in one little pigeonhole.
Okay.
Like, I wanted to be able to do multiple things. And when I was growing up, my dad, I got involved with my dad's training a lot. So I get to shoot 50 cals, Mark 19s. He would take me to, shoot M60s. Like, I get to shoot all the cool guy stuff that you see in the movies there in the 80s, right? And so I was thinking, and I always liked law enforcement, but it's crazy because I never wrote a ticket. The whole time, I spent 3.5 years as National Guard, but also active duty, and but I never wrote a ticket. And I was always taught in school that you can get more with honey than you can with salt.
Sure.
And I brought my experience and my more ethics and stuff. And hey, if I can talk nice to you and get my point across, and you don't show your ass, for better words, I can be nice. Because I'd rather be nice and win you over that way than smashing you and being like and causing pain to you. Right. There's times for that, and if people would have got rude or whatever, sure. I did arrest one person, but that was at the Pentagon. This is probably one of the funniest stories I had as an MP. Never wrote a ticket, but got to arrest somebody. So I'm sitting there at the Pentagon, checkpoint security, right after 9/11, and this guy's coming from Crystal City, and the way they had the route, you'd come underneath the bridge, and you had to make a U-turn to leave the Pentagon loop because the Pentagon loop went all the way around, right? So on his way to make his U-turn in that intersection, I happened to be there, and he asked me a couple questions, so I said, "Hold up," and I'd come. Just walking by, typical law enforcement stuff. I look in the back seat, fifth of every clear. That's about almost half polished off. Get up to the door, female on the passenger side, male in the driver's side. License, ask for just point of ID, And he hands me this prison ID card. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is new. I said, you don't have a license with you? He said, no. I said, is this your car? And he said, well, this is my mother's car. I said, so let me get this straight. You're driving by the Pentagon with a prison ID, a fifth of every clear in the back. And I don't think he realized I knew that at the time. And he was smelling zoo. Sure. It was like a Saturday night muster call or roll call, right? That just got called in because one of the privates just got a DUI or something.
I gotcha.
And he was just banging. And so I asked the young lady, does she have any ID? And of course she didn't have ID, but you could tell she's a working girl. So I called up our counterparts, and he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I don't think we can let them drive. And they're already on the Pentagon property, so I'm going to hand them to you, and you can arrest them for me.
Wow. So was he trying to report to work, or he was just took a wrong turn?
He took a wrong turn, man. He was out enjoying Crystal City. It was early morning. He had his thing for the night, I guess. Oh man. And yeah.
Okay, so that was the highlight of your MP career, huh?
Right. So and I worked the line unit, so I did a little bit of everything. We worked the road, so that's why I picked MP, because you never did the same job, right. So while I'm at the Pentagon, I'm training up, right, because I'm doing SRT now. I get asked to be on the SRT.
What's SRT?
SWAT for the MP Corps.
Oh, that's the bad boys.
Yeah, huh? So
all right.
We started doing that, and I really enjoyed that, but I was getting in really good shape, right? I had left the civilian life. I was active duty now, and I had just joined because of 9/11.
Okay.
Right? That was my
you went
step
active
off.
guard then.
So I was guard, and at 9/11, instead of re-enlisting, I terminated my enlistment and went active duty.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I'd been looking for an excuse because I was going to college full time. I was in the National Guard and I was working full time. And I needed an excuse to go in the military. My whole family had been in the military, and I was like, I want to go. I want to serve my country. And when 9/11 happened, I can remember to this day exactly what I was doing. I just got out of the shower. I was fixing to go to college classes. Mm-hmm. And I didn't make it to college that day. I watched it, and it was like, dude, this is not right. We're going to war. I can't sit back and watch this happen. You know, so I said, here's my excuse. This is my reason.
Yeah.
So, of course, at the time, I didn't know everything leads, you know, we had this path already laid out, and this is my path to take. I was just looking for that excuse. So it hit me. And so I go active duty, and I'm getting in shape, doing the SRT thing. And my buddies were saying, hey, we're going to go try out selection. I'm like, what are you talking about? Selection. And I'm like, you know, Rambo. Like the movie Rambo, freaking First Blood, all that.
Hell yeah.
They were like, yeah. So I said, from there on out, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a Green Beret. I'm going to be Rambo. That's all I knew about it. I had no clue what SF was about at all. Because, you know, I was a National Guard guy, MP. It wasn't a combat MOS at the time.
Yeah.
I had always wanted to go to Ranger School, but they would never send me because I wasn't a combat MOS. So when I learned about this next step, hey, you can go be Rambo.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, that's me. That's what we're going to do. And everybody said it. You're an MP. You're not going to make it. They're not going to pick you. They don't like MPs, right? So 3 of us went, and out of the 3, I got selected.
Nice.
And,
what year was that?
So that would have been the winter of 2002.
Okay.
So that would have been probably one of the early classes. So it wasn't crazy cold.
So it was like October, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was. They either had a ice storm at some point right before me.
Class.
Yeah.
My class.
So, and people had, like, the truck got a big pine tree fell on a truck and
smacked
broke somebody's
head.
Yeah. So, so I came in after that class, and I really didn't, like, I was not infantry. I mean, I learned land nav with my dad in the Seabees.
Wow.
I learned all that skills with my dad as a Seabees, because the MP Corps, yeah, we drove around in teams, whatever, but I spent 3.5 years. So I was a E4 going through the Q course. Okay. And the points for my rank was max. So I wasn't getting promoted anytime soon. So I had to go through the whole Q course experience, watching Soft C kids get promoted to E5.
Right.
You know, not even getting out of the course yet. And I had to wait all the way till I got awarded that award, which...
Your new MOS.
Yeah. And so that was the start of my SF career, was, you know, getting in shape for SRT and then saying, let's go be Rambo.
That's, you know, it's funny. Mine was not, I mean, wasn't too much different, right? I saw some SF guys when we were in Kosovo, and I was wearing a whole bunch of stuff and freezing my butt off, and they looked like they were enjoying life a lot more. And it was just like, what are those guys doing? That looks more along the lines of what I want to be doing, right? So it wasn't quite as cool. MP going through selection, right? Yeah. Selection's an individual event, so you're not really going to get any help other than the classes that they gave. Now, you had, being a country boy and spent a lot of time in the woods, you said you knew land nav pretty well. Did you get a lot out of the prep courses that they were doing in the during selection?
So I had some luck on my side. My unit was deploying prior to me going to selection, so they were all getting trained up and everything. I had the opportunity to go work with the SF recruiting team where I was at, so they helped me get trained up and pointed me in the right direction. And then so when I went to Camp McCall and they started all the classes, it was a really good refresher to get my mind locked in. Hey, here's the real deal. Now it counts, right?
All right.
And I was worried about my buddy because he struggled. Like, I spent many nights doing land nav at night with nothing but a old school Garmin GPS, pinpointing on the old Fort Benning land nav courses, and hoping we could find the placards and stuff out there in the middle of the night.
Right.
And so we did that for probably a good 2 months. Probably 2 or 3 times a week I'd have him out there, and we'd be working. And we did it all at night, because if he could do it at night, right, we could do it in the day.
Absolutely. Any other special train up you did? Because, I mean, again, coming from a non-combat MOS, and now you're going to go be Rambo, that's a big ask, right, to get through that selection class.
So there was something, you know what Best Ranger competition is?
I do.
So the MP Corps has something that's very similar, and they call it the Warfighter competition. So during this whole train up and getting in my top physical shape to go to selection, I did this Warfighter competition training. So we went to Fort Leonard Wood as a team, and we competed against the MPs from across the globe. And we did, physical events, rope climbing, 15-mile road march with a certain amount of weight and all this stuff. So physically, I was ready, and I thought my feet were. Okay. But because we were mobile as MPs, I wasn't used to doing a lot of humping and a lot of walking. That hurt. And the first ruck we did, I ended up tearing either MCL or ACL, slight tear, nothing crazy, enough to where the doc had to put me on Motrin and stuff to stay in the game.
Okay.
So the whole Q course, I can remember I was popping pills just to keep the pain down where I could tolerate it. But I couldn't do any more than that, because any more than that, you're a med drop, and then I wasn't going to try to relive that stuff again. Not at that point in my career, right? Because I was like, man, I just blew out my knee for what? I don't even know what I'm doing. Right?
Like, I don't really know what I'm getting into, but I'm going to be Rambo, and this is the first step at it, right?
Yeah. So I hobbled my way through land nav. It really saved my butt, because the STAR event and everything. Yeah, that was, at the time, that was you either made it or you didn't. That was
the make or break. Yep. You had to get 4 for 4.
Yeah,
or you had to get 11 points out of 16.
Or if you did a 4 for 4, was it 2 days or something like that?
If you got your 11 points in the first 3 days, you didn't have to go out on the 4th.
That's right. So I ended up having to go out on the 4th, and I was slow. But I ended up making it to my last point in time.
Nice. Obviously.
Yeah. And then, of course, being an MP, we have our ways of doing things. So not everybody, and as soon as you mention you're an MP, people kind of, you got a target on you.
Sure.
And, I probably complained about my feet more than I should have, but I wasn't used to that environment. I just wasn't. I wasn't used to walking as much. And so I had to go talk. And they were like, you did good. Just try not to, not necessarily complain, but try not to be so vocal about what you're going through at the time, right? And so I took it as a learning point. And I think that's what they were trying to do, because I brought a lot of skills. I had a lot of carpentry skills that I was bringing with me, a lot of country boy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
As an MP, we did a lot of different things, that EPW control. It's just, I brought a lot of stuff to the force that's with me. So I got selected, and next thing you know, I'm pregnant. I knocked up one of Fayetteville finest.
Okay.
We were married. We pretty much had a shotgun wedding, because my family was like, hey, you play, you pay. So I took the responsibility and tried to do the right thing. Okay. We spent about 7 years together. I had 2 kids with her. Probably the best thing that ever happened to me out of that relationship was my kids.
Sure.
I wish I had a better relationship with them. I don't have a relationship with my kids. And it sucks. Because growing up, I always wanted kids, because, I took care of my brother. I had to grow up quick.
Yeah.
And she kept them away from me. I was always deployed too, so I was never at home. And when I was home, I was the disciplinary. And I just raised my kids how my dad. I try to show them that I loved them, but Dad was known as the bad guy.
Right.
I didn't get any help, support from my wife at the time. So, you know, as you can see, things are just starting to stack up, right?
You're coming back from deployments and your kids are, or you're expecting them to be happy to see you. They're already upset because mom's got them prepped knowing that dad's coming home and things got to go back to the way they were.
Structure back in their life. They're not getting to make their own decisions. These guys like tiny little rugrats running around. Like they ran the house when I wasn't gone or when I was gone. Yeah. And when I come home, there was structure and discipline. Yeah. And, she used that against me as the years went along.
Sure.
So
sorry, brother. That's,
I'm keeping faith.
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of people that's went through the similar stuff that I, and they said they come back.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping and I'm praying that God allows me to have my family, because I always wanted a family, man. I wanted my kids above anything. I wanted my kids. And I fought for them all the way up to the very end. The deployments, they put me on medications because I started having issues. So I was on the regular ODA, did my first trip to Afghanistan, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Company, or 3rd Group. And Afghanistan was an eye-opener. I really learned a lot from a command perspective too. I went first time in a battle space, man. We're going in on Chinooks, pitch black, dead of night. I said, here we go. This is the real deal. I finally, all this training, all this culmination of everything coming together, and it's finally, and I'm a young 18 Bravo, right? Have no clue what I'm doing as a Special Forces sergeant, weapons sergeant. I had a pretty good senior that really grabbed me while we were on the ground, because I don't even think I spent hardly a week or two on the team.
Before you deployed? Before
we were deploying. So he grabbed me by and he got me spun up. All right, you're going to be over this. I want you doing, base camp security, run your plans through me. And I had an engineering background with carpentry and stuff that I grew up working with. So I actually did a lot of base camp security improvements and built pillbox type situation with HESCO walls. And I knew how to operate heavy machinery and bobcats. So I was out there moving and driving. So I took care of the security side of the house and small arms type stuff until he was able to do some one-on-one and get me spun up on some of the heavier weapon systems and stuff. So coming in on that Chinook in the middle of the night, and we're just getting off the bird, and the next thing you know, here comes incoming, and rockets hit the top of the HESCOs and just get right past us. And they were like, "Welcome to Afghanistan."
Wow, that was your infield.
That was my infield live.
2003, you said?
So that would have been 2005 when I finally got to group. I was a med hold during the 18 Bravo course. I had separated my AC joint, and just had to wait a whole, class
to heal, and then
to get healed. And that's how I met up with some of your buddies. Was being that med hold, and so I got to group in 2005, and it was pretty much I just dropped a kid. So coming out of the Q course, towards the end of the Q course, I met this girl. She got pregnant. We got married. As soon as I get to the team, we're dropping the kid, and they give me a couple weeks, and then I hit the road.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm flying out, and so new father, a wife that I really had no idea on, and I just spent a bunch of money to put her in a house. Right, because I'm fresh out of the Q course, E5 buck sergeant, and so I come home from that deployment. But I was telling you, I learned a lot. I didn't want to go and just do the everyday job that people want to do. I wanted to be into things. That's why I went SF. And so we started off, and I ended up having some medical issues. I call it leishmaniasis. So they brought me back to Bagram, and I ran the AST for our guys on the ground there, so the area support team.
Right.
Kicking and screaming, I didn't want to go, but honestly, to learn where I need to learn and to kind of find out how I fit in SF and how I fit in as an E5 and as you grow up through the ranks, I learned more about SF overall and the big picture. So I knew I had a target to go for, because I was able to, I was managing the teams on the ground.
Right.
So when the firefights happened, the commander there in the talk would take over, but a lot of times the colonel would come directly to his ASTs saying, hey, you fill me in. You're tracking these guys. What do they have? What do they need? Where are we at? Right. So you were responsible for a lot. So I learned a lot doing that, and I'm appreciative. And that's one thing I've learned through my whole military careers. I always got pushed into things I didn't want to do, but I ended up learning a lot more out of it than I thought I was going to. So that's when I started knowing patience started being a virtue for me.
Okay.
And it's been the hardest thing to learn until these guys here, for sure.
Right.
Yep.
So first trip to Afghanistan, good, big learning curve for you, but you got a lot out of it. Redeploy, back to now you're learning how to be dad and learning how to be husband.
Trying to be dad, trying to be husband. Exactly.
How's that going?
It's not pretty.
Yeah.
I'm irritable because I just got back from a deployment being shot at and seeing a bunch of stuff. We lost a guy that I looked up as a mentor. So we were in Lawara, which is on the Pakistan border. And we were doing, key leader engagements and stuff like that. And of course, I was AST, but we had two teams working together. We were co-located, and I was just I was a sponge. I was trying to absorb from anybody and everybody that could teach me the job, right? And so I kind of grew over, and his nickname was Jimbo, right? James Oshner was his name, and that morning I'm AST duties in Bagram, and they're going out on a KLE and meat pack meal. And next thing you know, we're troops in contact. They hit an IED. And I had to receive his body at the Bagram airline. So that was the first contact that I had with somebody that I looked up to. And I don't even know why I'm that emotional about it, because it was a short time that we spent together. I looked up to him. But I just seen it as unfair. This guy was always doing the right thing. He, and they going out to do a mission. Of course, we have handcuffs on during this time, right?
Yeah.
Because of ROE and everything. You couldn't engage. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do that. And he rolls out the wire just to go have a talk with local leadership, and an IED takes him out. What is that? So that was my first look at real death in the face in a wartime situation. And it kind of hit me hard. So I recovered off of that, but it always stuck with me, right? And so the more things adding up. So I'm coming home. So I don't know how to deal with that type of stuff that's going on. I don't know how to deal with being a father. I don't know how to deal with being a husband. And home life sucked. So first thing we do is separate, right? And then we're on again, we're off again. Every time we deploy, I'm back home, we try it out, and it's just worse. It's like every time I deployed, life was easy, life was great, doing my thing. I didn't have nothing to worry about. Just go out and do your job, right? And I didn't do anything spectacular my whole SF career. Yeah, I've got the Bronze Stars and all that, but I just did my job, right? I didn't have the opportunity to go above and beyond. If it was there, I would have done it because that was my job. There was multiple times though throughout our career of working and going back and forth that every time you come home, it just was so slow. I could not adapt. It was almost like transitioning out the military. I just couldn't slow down my body, couldn't slow down my mind, couldn't slow down anything to operate in a non-submissive, not getting shot at, not always being active, and you're running a family now that I've never done in my life. So that was military life, and I knew everything coming together was probably the hardest thing I've done, and it was an epic failure on my part of trying to do all of that.
So on one hand, you've got the military career that you're thriving in because, you went to the most elite unit you had in 3rd Group, and you were thriving there and loved the deployments and were crushing your job. On the other hand, you feel like you're failing as a husband, as a father. You don't know how to do this thing.
Yep.
So you almost just want to be deployed all the time.
Exactly. So I kind of took the family and just pushed it in the back with all my other issues, right? And then just go. Like I was always short at that point. So now, second trip in Iraq with the SIF B-23, and my 18 Delta comes to me and was like, "Dude, you've got some stuff going on." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm fine, man." He said, "No, you're no longer part of the team. You're segregating yourself. You're staying away. You're not. You're being very confrontational when people will approach you and stuff like that." And it's like, I don't know what's going on. So that was my first visit to behavioral health, and that was Camp Spiker, I believe, in Iraq. And of course, the first thing the Army did, we're going to put you on medications.
I was going to say, how was that received? You're in a combat zone and you're going and saying, "Hey, I need to take a knee. I don't know what's going on."
Yeah, well, I really didn't have a choice at that point. When the Delta came to me and said, "Hey, dude, we got to have a talk," at that point, because he's got the full backing of the commander, full backing of Team Daddy, and because he's on the outside looking in, right? And he's supposed to monitor us through all this stuff. So that's his job, right? So, of course, I went with it, again, not wanting to, because I didn't want to say I'm taking a knee. There's nothing wrong with me. And, of course, it's all building up, right? It's building up in the background, everything just piling up. And so I start my medications, and, they're trying different things. This was over just I think we were doing a 4 or 5 month deployment that trip. We were up working a lot in Mosul area, up north in the northern side of stuff, and we were getting a lot of firefights. Those were the good days. We were, the year before that, and we were coming. So the year before I joined the SIF, that was the biggest year where they were getting in firefights 2 or 3 times every time they went out. So when I came in, it was probably 2 out of the 3 times a night you get in a firefight. So we're laying waste. We got the reins pulled on us a couple of times from higher, saying, "Hey, y'all gotta slow it down." Nothing illegal, but we weren't messing around. We had our own targeting package. We were the teams, the squadron. We were clicking, right? We were just boom, boom, boom. So it was really go. And I come back and me and the wife try to reconcile one more time, and we made it about 6 months, and she comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to go on a trip, and I want to go get some work done." right? She wanted to go get some breast augmentation because she wanted a reduction or whatnot. So I said, well, I can't afford that, right? We're living off of my salary, or what the military's paying me. She wasn't working. 2 kids. One of the kids is going to a semi-private school. So I was providing my whole paycheck was going in the family, check to check. Couldn't put nothing in savings, nothing like that. And she said, "Don't worry, I got the money," right? So she goes out and gets it done. And by that time, I'm like, you know what? I'm struggling to keep the family afloat. I got us in a nice house. We moved out of one house. I sold it, made made some money on it, and moved into another house. And I just felt betrayed, right? Like I'm putting all this money into the family and sending her to school and stuff, and it just didn't work out. So I went ahead and that was the last straw, right?
That was the line. That was the line.
And so we separated, and I started losing my mind, dude. The single guy came out, right? And I missed it, right? I missed the family or going out with the guys because I was under lock and key in that relationship. There was no going out with the guys. There was no team parties. Like I really isolated myself even while on active duty because of my relationship with my wife at the time. So I built good relationships. They were always there, of course. That's how we are. We're always there for each other.
Right.
But it wasn't the same. And it just got worse, right? Because everything was still stacking up. Sure. And I wasn't talking about it. We didn't know any different. We just know, hey, put in your rucksack, we'll address it at some point.
Well, I mean, and you were advised early on, right? Hey, you need to not voice that shit quite so much. You need to just take care of yourself, worry about the team.
Exactly, right? And everybody knew if you took a knee, bullseye.
Yeah.
And that was a kind of a career ender back then.
It was.
Once that target come on you weren't going no more cool guy schools. You weren't doing you were being watched. So I get back and I'm starting to deteriorate, and they're like, "Hey, it's time for a SWIC tour, right? Get your shit together, go back to the team, do your thing, right?" So I said, "All right, perfect." Be an opportunity for me to learn some more of the more leadership, go give back to the force.
Do your instructor time.
Do my instructor time. So I started off at the 18 Bravo course as an instructor. I did heavy weapons, and I did the FTX. While I was there, I did the SOCP course. So I was one of the first couple of classes that went through that. And
that was the combatives program, right? Special operations.
Yeah.
I don't remember what
and the instructor. So it's Special Operations Combative Program is what it stands for. And so we did that. I really kind of enjoyed that. So when I come back to the Bravo committee, I stood up a combatives PT session program for in the mornings. We did a lot of things. I got our FTXs. We had actual maps that I went out and did air recon, pictures hanging out of Black Hawks, just doing cool guy stuff, getting them some airtime and really getting these guys some real world training. Because as an AST, I got to see all that. And I wanted these guys as young studs going through the Q course to get to see it as well.
Right, and really understand what's waiting for them, right? So now you've had a few rotations. This is really like best case scenario. You're now getting to mold these guys for the war that is ongoing, right? And what better instruction to get, right? So I love the idea of that, and it gave you the time to decompress.
Or we thought,
sure,
yep, and so. The demons started poking their heads up, remember, because we slowed down, right? SWIC, for me, we were busy, but the tempo wasn't the same, right? The tempo in the SIF and everything was go, 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 go. And with the SWIC, it was in spurts, right? You get a class to come through, and as a FTX, I got to, boom, really crunch it in for a good couple of weeks, and then it slows back down, waiting for the next group of guys to come through or whatever. So it was ups and downs, and the slow times started getting to me. Irritability started coming in, right? Started getting involved, and I started snapping again, just like the 18 Delta that reached out to me and was like, hey, dude, we got to... So we revisit that, right? At the time, I was already off the medications because I didn't want to be on medications, right? But I had been deploying on them. So they changed some medications around, been off on some new stuff. And so on my transition, I decided I wanted to go back to the teams with something more than what I left with, right? I just didn't want to go back as an 18 Bravo. And so at the time, I went to Sergeant Major 3rd Group and like, hey, Sergeant Major, I want to reclass. I want to get another MOS because I want to come back and bring something with me.
Sure.
So he was like, cool deal, you're in. So I went through the 18 Charlie course, and that was hard. Mathematics, and at the time, I had already done a lot of indoor shooting, a lot of breaching, 8 charges in Iraq. I was having a lot of micro tears and stuff going on in the brain. So my memory was going, right? And the first thing I noticed was when I started taking tests and doing math, right? And it was right in my face. And I'm going up to the instructors and said, dude, I'm struggling here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pass, right? They gave me some extra work, just like they would any other student, right?
Sure.
Treated me like they did the right thing. They treated me like a student, but they kept it professional, and we worked through it. I had to do a couple of retests, but I got through it. And wouldn't you know, the next thing you know, a team was asking me to come because they wanted to go on a JSET to Tajikistan, and I had already been on one, right? So I was already familiar with the area, and it was a young team. So green 18 Bravo, green 18 Charlie, me being 18 Charlie, 18 Bravo, the first thing they were like, we want you to go. Would you go with us? And yeah, you're going to be the senior 18 Bravo and senior 18 Charlie. Acting, of course.
Sure.
But so I did that trip. That was an interesting trip. There was a lot of internal clashing within that team and stuff, and command structure and stuff.
Young team, young
warrant officer having some stuff to prove. Again, he'd been around a little while in group, but I think he was starting to feel the effects of group as well. And I don't want to get into his thing, but there was a lot of strife that went on that deployment, and I was kind of the glue that stuck the team together, keeping all the old guys, right, being the team daddy, and kind of looked at, because I was like the senior guy, and I was a E7, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had at the time maybe 7 or 8 years in group, something like that. So, and that was a 4th Battalion team. So we get back from that deployment, and of course, you know, they shut down the 4th Battalion teams and was reshifting everybody around, right, making all the specialties go to 4th Battalion. So I closed down that team and got pulled over to 3rd Battalion, and here we go again. I'm getting ready to go to Afghanistan, right? Mind you, I'm on some controlled meds, right? Been on controlled meds all through deployments with the SIF. Now they've changed a little bit, but still. And we go to, what is the SIRIP or whatever, when you go do all the medical stuff prior to deployment, you know, where you check off all the SRP.
Yeah.
So we're going through them, and they're coming across my medical section, and they see you're on all these drugs, and they're like, you can't deploy. And I said, to hell, right? Because nobody's going to tell us the only person who's going to tell us we can't deploy is a team sergeant, right? Or the sergeant major,
right? Commander, right.
Yeah, somebody like that. And I was like, yeah, you're not going to tell me I'm not going to deploy on these medications. I've been deploying for the last 4 deployments. And they said, well, we got new rules, and if you don't cut these out, you can't deploy with them. So you know what we did? Cold turkey. Goodbye.
Yep, here you go.
I didn't wean off of them at all.
Yeah.
So now we're rolling out. Just went through a real divorce with my wife. It's completely over, right? Nasty, dirty. because she wanted custody of the kids, blah, blah, blah. They weren't going to give me custody because I was active duty.
Yeah.
So not in a good place. So no contact with back home. I'm worried about my kids. I'm on a deployment. And, this is during the drawdown, right? So everything's coming back to Kandahar and Bagram, and you're no longer living out with your locals, right?
Right.
So there was only 2 paths to go, the eastern route or the western route to go to our location. The locals lived inside our compound. The cook did. We could not control access to our compound. At the time, we couldn't spend money to put anything in place for security. We didn't have running water. We was eating MREs. And this was the very last days of the war, dude. We should have been, and I don't want to sound prima donna, but we should have been living a decent life wherever we was working.
Right. So what year was this?
To 2015.
Okay.
The fall, going into the fall of 2015. And so, of course, cold turkey. I'm a new 18 Charlie, so now we have 2 routes. So as soon as we go into built-up areas, we're out walking, searching for IEDs. So now the brain's clicking, right? Always on guard. So when everything started adding up, all the fact they wouldn't let me spend money to make the living situation better or anything like that. So I just started working nonstop. I stopped sleeping. Irritability kicked in. All your typical stuff that comes with the lack of sleep, deprivation, and working yourself to death to avoid the demons coming after you is what I was doing. Once again, the guys to my left and right stepped in and was like, hey, you need to go get help. So the first thing they did was sent me to behavioral health. And after hearing the first 5 seconds of my story, they were like, you got to go. So they felt that it was best to med-evac me out. I said, no, I don't want to do that. If I would have known better, I would have let them do that. So I got that extra money. But group, they sent me, right? They just said, all right, let's go. We got a plane, hop on it. So they sent me back. I started an impartial patient program there at Fort Bragg. So it was, I think it was Sanford or one of the hospitals outside of Bragg.
Okay.
But it was an impartial patient program where you did mental health, you had psychiatry, you had psychologists, and you did all these like group settings. But you had it from military, civilians. It was a mixture of people. And they take all your medications. They just rework everything, right? So now, third different setup of different medications, a whole different organization looking at me doing it. So as you can imagine, my brain was going everywhere, right? So I ended up meeting this girl. So I got my first wife. She's divorced. I meet this new chick. And for some reason, it was being loneliness and not having that female to come home to, right? So, and looking back at it now, I can just say, hey, after doing all this treatment and healing, I've always said that was because as a kid, you didn't have that. And you were looking for that.
You were looking for that nurturing, right?
Yeah, that motherly love, that wife that's supposed to fill that slot at that, and I didn't have that either, right? So, but I get it because it's there in front of me, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be my motherly love, my nurture, and my wife, and we kind of get married like immediately. Knee-jerk reaction based off of her deployment schedule, my deployment schedule. So we was kind of trying to use it as a hardship where she could delay her deployment and go on the next rotation. And then we could kind of start our life together. Yeah. 6 months later, I'm on the 6th floor. She's leaving me. I'm suicidal. And they still got me on all these different medications, and they're switching it around, and I have all these suicidal ideologies going on. I was going to the third group behavioral health at the time, and So I'm starting to realize, and then this is a time where people are starting to start this program, and the hands are going up, people are taking knee, and I just start seeing these people getting crucified, right? They're kicking these guys out, because they're using drugs or alcohol to self-medicate because they don't know what the hell's going on.
That's right.
And nobody was really helping because, therapy helps to an extent, but you can't talk about this stuff but for so long. And I think reliving it by talking it over, in the beginning, it's part of it, right? But I think there's got to come a time where you got to, okay, I've talked about it, let's file it away. I don't have to think about it. I just know it's there. If I ever want to revisit, I can pull that file out and picture and see that. So I'm a big believer in other alternatives to therapy. And, it's a piece of the pie, though. It's part of the healing process. You got to have it.
Right.
So I'm on the 6th floor, suicidal. I'm seeing all my brothers and sisters go through all these different crazy times and getting tabs revoked. So I do some messed up stuff, right? This is probably the lowest time in my career and the time that I probably did the most damage, but at a time to where I was reacting to the completely environmentals. So the environment controlled my scenario, and I was just striving just to stay alive. I mean, I was suicidal. I had suicidal ideology. I was on all these different medications. I was on the med board process. So I was beginning the med board process because I had a suicide attempt right when my wife and I separated, right? My current wife, my second wife.
Was it just a situational?
It was situational, but it was my problem. She couldn't handle the issues that she didn't see until she lived with me, right? Because we're good at hiding our problems, or not necessarily hide them, but we're putting them in the background, right? Mm-hmm. So, and when you're trying to impress somebody, it's kind of natural. It's almost like doing your job, right? Winning hearts and minds.
Yeah.
So I just thought of it as kind of like work. Hey, I got a job to do. I got to be this person for her, and it didn't last. I became confrontational or irritable. Any little thing bothered me, and I was just cleaning up one time and come across her journal. And like a dummy, I read it, and that was the trigger with me and her. I read a journal that I shouldn't read. It had some personal stuff from past relationships. But because of where I found it, it hurt, right? Because I found it in like her underwear drawer, right? Like, and I was like, and I don't know what I was maybe putting clothes away, something like that. But I was seeing this book and I read it like a dummy. Yeah. And it triggered something inside me because at that split moment, I dropped everything. I was grabbing black bags. I threw her stuff in it. And she had happened to be gone somewhere for the weekend or something and was coming back later that day. She came home with all of her stuff in bags out in the driveway. I mean, I was... And that was probably the lowest point, with the suicide, this fully outraged towards her, towards everybody, and towards the military, because I was being punished for something that I'd already took responsibility for, right? They wanted to go that extra mile because we had a run in when we were first when we first got introduced. He was part of my command at one time. He didn't like a conversation we had, and I feel that he kind of used that to go against me. At a later date when he fell on top of me. But, I tried to do the right thing. The command at the time, I was at AST, so I just left 3rd Battalion because I'd just come back from that deployment early. They sent me home as to get that mental health. So they transferred me over to AST, the support training teams for the battalions. So we did like the dirt bike, the four-wheeler, self-recovery of like the MRAPs and all that type stuff.
Teaching mobility stuff.
Mobility stuff, yep. Mm-hmm. And so the command there, I knew him from the SIF, And I knew the other guy from being in Alpha Company and 2nd Battalion. And they reached out to me and was like, hey, we see you're doing all this, and we see you're trying to help, and we know that you can help us. And I was like, well, what do you need? He said, we want you to help ID guys that are going through the same stuff you're going through. Because at this time, I was trying anything and everything I could to stay, right? Even though I knew I was in a med board process, I was looking for any reason, effort to stay that 20 years, because I was at 18 and a half when they medically retired me. So I was kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when I got out, I can see now that was the best thing that happened for me. But I couldn't see it at the time. And I see that so much from the guys and gals. But you know what that does, though? When you push the guys out like that and they're not ready to go, it totally shuts them off. And that was me. When I got out, I turned my back to everything military. Not only everything military, but all my friends. Anything that I enjoyed at that point, hunting and fishing, was gone. I did not get any feel-good moments out of anything anymore. I was just this empty, hollow sack of flesh, right? Just there, fighting the demons, whispers, you're not good enough. You failed as this, you failed as this. You got kicked out of this. You're broken. You're no good. Anything, right? So straight up spiritual warfare. And at the time, I didn't even realize that's what I was going through. So I had a very abrupt medical retirement. And honestly, I am so thankful, because I've seen so many guys lose their tabs and stuff. Right. I had the support, my command from over the years of serving in 3rd Group. I had so much support from my leadership saying that I was failed from a leadership and from a medical point of view. And I think that's the only thing that saved me, right? That's the only thing. And if I would have had my tab taken away at the time, I don't know if that would have been good. I don't think I'd have been here. I don't think there would have been nothing that stopped me, because at the time I was done. And if they would have took my tab away, I wouldn't be here today. There's no way. There's no way, because that tab was everything to me. Like, I put my heart, sweat, tears, blood. It was my whole identity.
Right.
Looking back, of course, it wasn't. It made me who I am today, but it's not who I am tomorrow. That's right. And if it wasn't for that support that I had over the years, it would have been we wouldn't have this conversation right now.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not easy. It wasn't easy for your medic to come over and say, hey, bro, like, we need to talk. You need to take a knee. Like, that's not an easy conversation for a grown man to have with another grown man, knowing that you want the same thing that he wants, which is to be on the team and be doing great things, in the world. So, but if it wasn't for him stepping up, talking to you about it, you were willing to listen. And that's the thing that I want to take out of the story. We're all there. We're willing to listen. If somebody else is willing to have that conversation with you, we'll take your advice, man. But too often, people aren't willing to have that conversation. It's more like, yeah, you're expendable. Hey, as long as he's coming to work, he's doing his job, he's good. Like, yep. And that's the hard part. Going back to when you found out you were going to get med boarded, how long was the process before you were out?
So, because I had to go through the 6th floor a second time.
Okay.
That process was 6 months.
Still not a lot of time to plan when you've gone from 18 and a half years of, this is my life, this is my identity, and everything's in it, and I've dedicated everything to this, to now I got to plan what life looks like after 6 months. That's
and I was a wreck. Mm-hmm. I was a wreck during that time. I didn't even know who I was. Right. I I had absolutely no idea. I had kind of, I wouldn't say I turned my back on God. I was raised Baptist, Southern Baptist, went to church every time the doors open. But when you do a career to me, like what we did, you almost don't feel like you're worthy because you're killing people. You're doing things and you're like, it's aggressive. It's like, you almost feel like, how can God look at me and be like, you're worthy? But I've done some bad shit, right? I've done some bad stuff. I've done stuff that I wish not even on my own enemies, right? Had to shoot people that ultimately weren't doing a thing wrong. He was just did not understand what was going on because of mental retardation and stuff. It's just having handcuffs on, watching grenades get thrown at guys because we were kind of, the brakes was pumped on us, so we had delayed reactions to stuff happening, and people were getting injured, right? Because that's the stuff that I couldn't deal with.
That's that moral injury that gets talked about, that I think a lot of people misunderstand what it means. But it's those times when you could have stepped in, but you didn't because you were either told not to or for whatever reason, or the way that we watched the Afghanistan stuff unfold. Those are those moral injuries that continue to plague the guys and gals today, right? So I like how you've described those and opened up about those, because I think people will understand that at home.
Yeah, right. Because we have a lot. So civilians and military, we go through the same type of experiences, right? We just don't see it the same because we're looking at it from two different perspectives. And perspectives plays a role in everything, right? So if we can get the civilians to start looking at the perspective, and even our own fellow teammates and brothers and sisters, they're looking at it from their perspective, and they don't even realize we're going through the same stuff that the guy sitting next to me is going through. And because we're too much of a man, too much of I'm a double barrel freedom fighter. I don't need to take a knee. Too proud, right?
And I don't want to let you down.
And I don't want to let the team down. That's the number one thing, right? You don't want to be known as a guy that let the team down. And because you worked as a team, you worked close, you get super niche, and it's the guys to your left and right that keeps you alive. Yeah. And if you start letting them down, then there's a liability, there's a risk that's happening. Something is not right? So that was our biggest thing is, you don't let the team down. That's the number one rule across the board. Right. It's never spoken, really.
And if that's the number one rule, how do I raise my hand and take a knee? Because I know it's gonna.
Yep.
You're gonna have to replace me. You're gonna have to. Even worse, you're gonna have to do it without me. Yep. Right? You're gonna have to do it one short because I'm over here trying to take care of myself. So.
And then something happens, and then you're looking at the situation. It's your fault.
Now you got survivor's guilt, right? Because you weren't there. Because you decided to take care of yourself.
Yep.
And that's the mental gymnastics that the bros are going through, right? On a daily.
On the daily.
Well, I think it's a good place to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into your that transition and how that looked.
Perfect.
Before we went on the break, we were really just coming right up to the end of your career, right? Now you didn't speak much on what that treatment looked like. You said that you spent, the end of your career kind of on the 6th floor.
Yeah, so I had that first visit, finished up that second marriage during that time. Actually, was kept on the 6th floor. Because they were so worried about me, they kept me in the 6th floor and gave my ex-wife, time to move out, and she actually took a lot of stuff that wasn't hers. So I was a little sore about that one too, right? So, but let's not get it wrong, right? I wasn't an angel in none of these, throughout my whole lifespan, and none of these relationships, right? I was always striving to do better, but it wasn't always their fault either, right? So I had a lot coming, and I couldn't blame it on the military, all of it, or whatever. So you know, that sixth floor visit there was the last one, right? So when I came home and find the empty house, that was the straw that finally snapped the camel's back and ended my military career, because at that point there was no returning, because I fell in the deepest depression, because now I failed at another marriage, right? I had to admit that I'm so messed up. I was having suicidal thoughts. So I was up on the sixth floor, and now I have nowhere to go because I'm a failure. And I've already been moved off the teams. So I'd already lost everything that I wanted to be and do in SF, right? To be on the teams, go.
Right.
So at that point, I was losing my whole identity already, and didn't even think about it mentally, but it was happening, right? And I thought, you know, all this pain, it wasn't worth it. I was stepping on my crank every time I turned around. It was, I could not do anything right. I was ruining relationships with friends that I had over the past. And this was over like just like a couple months, right? During this in-process program, during the sixth floor visit, I just turned completely cold, like, and I decided to start my 45. And still to this day, I don't know how those guys got in my house. I can only think of maybe my neighbor or something. They were able to get in contact with one of my neighbors that had a key.
Well, what happened?
You know, I came home to an empty house.
Okay.
And I was on my way. You know, command was after me. That was when we were, crucifying all these guys. You know, I was at my lowest of low in my military career.
Right.
And all I wanted to do was medically retire and leave the military with some type of integrity and some type of, you know, this is what I've done. I got to live with it and figure out what's next. And I didn't make it. Like, I just hit rock bottom. That new wife was gone. So I felt like the biggest loser, no identity, nowhere to turn. I thought I was the biggest failure to all my teammates currently, failure to the command that wanted me to help other soldiers and identify problems before they got to the point where I was at. Couldn't do that anymore. And I just decided that, no relationship with my kids. I was just going to end it, and then nobody would have had to worry about anything. I'd have been done. Yeah, my parents, but myself, I was like, well, I should have been dead because of my deployments, right? I shouldn't have been here. So yeah. I got survivor guilt, right?
You planned your funeral how many times by that point?
Oh, like, I can't even remember. I mean, I wrote out that day, the day it was going to happen, the day that I had it in my mouth.
Yeah.
And the day basically the door opened, and my guys had their guns out because they didn't know what was going on. So they came in for their security. And that day was the day I wrote my letter. Like, this is why I'm doing it. This is where I want my stuff to go. And I was ready to just walk away from everything.
Wow.
I was done. I gave up.
How did your team find out that you were in that place?
I didn't show up to work.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was that simple. One day I just decided I wasn't going to go to work. I figured, I was home alone. The house was empty. Nobody's going to miss me. I figured, hey, it'd have been perfect timing. I wouldn't have had to worry about a thing. And literally, I just got done finishing writing a letter, set it down on the table, said my prayer, and said, forgive me. And I just said I wanted the pain to end.
Yeah.
I mean, I let so many people down. So many on my way out of the military. And I didn't know why I was doing half the stuff I was doing. I just knew I was doing wrong. And so I was ready to just give up.
You're just in pain and you just wanted it to end.
Medically, you know, mentally, physically, you name it. I was just, my body was just like done with it. You know, you give, never take a break, never take a knee. When you do try to take a break, you get a little help, but of course the military just want to throw drugs at you.
Yeah.
Right. And not address the actual problem at that time. And then, so I just figured, you know, I don't get to see my family much anyways, like back home, because I'm always deployed doing this and that. And I know I was ending, but I was like, I was literally scared to get out because I had no idea where I was going to go, what I was going to do. I had no idea what civilian life was like. You know, and I'm not scared of a lot of things, right? Getting shot at was easy.
Sure.
Yeah, EFPs and IEDs scared me. I didn't want to mess with those things, but getting out was way scarier because it was the unknown.
Yeah. And you were going through it by yourself.
And I'm going through every bit of it by myself.
Before we were facing the unknown a lot, but it was with your brothers, you know, to your side. So this was the first time in a long time that you had to face an unknown by yourself.
And I didn't have that connection with God at the time either. You know, I had that connection that we pushed back to the side, like, hey, we'll visit you later, Jesus.
Yeah.
Once we're done killing people and doing what we got to do.
We'll deal with all this stuff in the trunk later.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you feel like you were reaching a point where your mental health, where the things that you were admitting were somewhat getting weaponized against you and your relationships?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was used against me. It was used against me in court, trying to get my kids. My military training was used against me in court, trying to get my kids. And like I said before, the kids is the only thing I've ever always wanted. And I wanted to be a protector and a provider for my kids. And when the courts told me, hey, because your medical history, because your military training, and this was after I got out, and I took a break. I tried to get some healing myself, right? My transition, that's what I used. My transition to do is try to work on healing. Because I realized when I did make that visit to the 6th floor after, you know, trying to end it, I realized I needed help bad. And so that was my first steps of my transition, is doing anything and everything possible to fix what was going on.
Wow. Well, brother, can you take us to the 6th floor just for a minute? Just kind of talk through what was working there. What would I expect if I were to volunteer and say, hey, I need to take a knee and I am in that place right now? Like what? So I'm not going into the unknown. How would you prep me for that?
You know, I had never really thought about it, but I can tell you right now, based off of a conversation we had earlier, it's kind of like SEER school.
Okay.
When you go up in that room, right, they strip you of everything, and it's just you in a room. No sharp objects, no shoelaces. You know, you're in pajamas, basically.
Zero trust.
You know, different environments, but same mental situation, right? They control every aspect. So when you wake up, when you go to sleep, when you have to do this and that, and your daily routine is completely laid out for you.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of SEER, but what it also did was it gave me a place to where I can just, I had to look at it from a positive perspective instead of just they got me on the 6th floor. I'm walking around in pajamas again, all drugged up, medicated out, which wasn't the case. I thought they were going to put me on all these crazy drugs. They actually one thing they did do was they took their time. They looked at the situation. They looked at it from an unbiased perspective, which was key, right? Because everybody else is looking at you from you're a loser perspective, right? You're trying to commit suicide, and why, right? What's so special about you, or whatever, right? And because you just get labeled, right? Sure. When you do that type of thing. So, but they're looking at you from, why are you doing this, and what can we do to help you? So the first thing they're going to do is they look at our meds, right? So they actually got me on some stable medication, like immediate, where I wasn't just all over the place. Now, that all went to hell when the VA took over, but that's okay. We recovered from that too. So, anyways, the SEER comparison would be, I learned so much about myself all over again and who the new Keith was, because I had that time to look at myself, just like SEER school. Okay. Right? So it was very similar. Like, you're in the same kind of situation. You got nothing but time to think about your inner self, pray to whatever God you pray to. So I refound God again. I had some good conversations with some really good people that, you know, my chaplain was a big part of my healing process from group. Respected that officer. So I really dove back into that side and started pulling that and started wanting that again. And I don't know if it was out of desperation or what, but it was the first thing I turned to, right? I reached back to my father, my mother, and turned to them, right? And was like, I need your support. So it really gave me an opportunity to look inside myself and be realistic and tell me, hey, this is what you need to do to pull out of this, and then do what's your next step in life, right? And that's the easiest way to explain it, I guess. Okay.
So to kind of roll that up then, when you left the military, it was pretty quick after your treatment in the 6th floor. They kind of blessed off on you and said, okay, you're well enough for us to go ahead and medically retire you and put you out in the world. Yep. Okay. How and we talked about that transition period being a real short, about 6 months. So not a whole lot of planning to go into that. So kind of take us to that. How did that go for you, that transition?
As I was transitioning out, of course, I went through the standard Army transition stuff.
The TAPS.
Yeah, the TAPS program. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I didn't care. You know, I was getting medically retired, so I didn't want a ceremony. That was, at that point, I had turned my back, right?
And you said you started withdrawing already from the guys.
Yeah, so at that point, I was just like, I just want to get out of here the fast as I can. I don't care about the transition and portion. I'm not even going to be doing anything. I'm just going to go in life and just, I don't know. I had no plan whatsoever. And nor was I ready to. Mentally, physically, emotionally, I wasn't ready to transition or even talk about transition at that point. It wasn't until I started addressing my issues and getting help from nonprofits that actually give me the opportunity to actually transition. Physically, yeah, I was no longer in the Army. Mm-hmm. Mentally, I was running from the Army, but there was no transition plan, no guidance, no nothing. So the transition really didn't exist until I started getting help to where I could figure out the steps, right? So that's when I started, all these nonprofits were doing this treatment, checking out this. Because when I got out, I was messed up bad. I had holes in basically every lobe of my brain. If it wasn't for Task Force Dagger and Jeff Dardia, if he didn't personally get involved with my treatment through the Care Coalition and made sure on my way out was taken care of, I don't know where I'd be with that either, because they sent me down to Naples. I got, and this was all part of my transition, right? Me finding my health and getting healthy. They did a series scan, which is nuclear medicine, and they put you in a dark room, no sounds, nothing, and they track the blood flow in your brain because MRIs wasn't showing anything.
Okay.
And so they were like, after the procedure's done, they were like, dude, you've got like holes in every one of your brain. What's your story? Because they didn't you don't tell them anything. And I said, well, I hit my head on, the armor of the vehicles during, whatever, smacking off of it during firefights and stuff. I've been danger close to a lot of explosive charges, a lot of indoor shooting, percussion type offensive weapons, heavy weapons as an instructor. I mean, I would sit on the Gustav line of students, and each student would have like 2, depending on how big the class is, 2 to 4 Gustavs to shoot.
Yeah.
And we only had 2 instructors, so we would half the students would shoot, but once like 2 students shot, you already met your quota for the day.
Right.
But as an instructor, you had to sit there as a safety. So one instructor would cover half of it, the next instructor would come in, and we relieve each other.
Right.
And I can tell you days I was just sick to my stomach, just almost puking after a range day like that.
Well, I think medically they say you shouldn't fire more than, is it 2 in a 24-hour period, I believe?
Yep. And depending on what position, too, and what type of ammo. So if you're standing or kneeling, you absorb a lot more of that overpressure. Mm-hmm. So all those heavy explosions and door breaches that I could not escape from in Iraq and stuff did a lot of damage. So they decided to send me up to the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, right? Now, as part of my healing situation through the military, they actually sent me to the hyperbaric chamber while I was on my SWIC tour.
Okay.
That is one of the top 5 I would give for the healing process for us guys with TBIs, PTSD, or operator syndrome is like what I like to refer to it as. That, or just overall healing and getting your body back. I would say that's like one of the number 1 things I recommend to the guys.
So that chamber, is that similar? The guys and gals that are on military free fall teams, we used to have to go through a chamber that would take us up to altitude. And then I know they started doing just a mask, a palm mask for a while. Is this a barometric chamber like that where you go inside and they take you to a certain altitude, or how's that work?
What they do is it's similar, but it's opposite. So they take you below,
down.
Right below sea level, a certain amount of atmospheres, okay. And then they pump in. They pull out all the bad stuff and put in pure oxygen.
Okay.
Right. So you're breathing pure oxygen in, and it's the pressure is forcing it deep into your tissues, your bone marrows, and my understanding is it causes stem cell growth right within the marrows, because that's where your stem cells come from. Is my understanding. So the stem cell growth allows your body to heal from within. So it's a lot of times it's used for like people with diabetes that have amputees or sores that don't heal. You can do stuff like that. They tried it on me for PTSD or TBI, same type of stuff, while I was still on active duty, and it done wonders for me. I think that's what really allowed me to go back to the team, even though I had some rough things during the middle, and was able to work another 4 years, right? 4 or 5 years on a team.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an individual tube. They put you in there under pure oxygen, drop you below atmosphere levels and within the sea level, and you do. I think the standard protocol is like 40 dives or so. It takes like a month and a half to do it.
Okay.
You do 2 dives a day roughly, and it was great. But I did that starting in active duty, and then as I went out, the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, Task Force Dagger sent me there as well.
Okay.
And they put me on like an elimination diet. They found out that I had heavy metal poisoning. So this all kind of got started because when I got out, I was 230 pounds, right?
Okay. Is that what you walked around at, just yoked?
Yeah, just 230. I was a SIF guy, so, you know, we were all about getting big because we were kicking indoors, right? And so in less than 6 months, or right around that 6 months, I dropped down to like 170 pounds. And the VA was like, you look great.
It's a 50 pound, 60 pound difference, yeah?
Yeah. He was like, oh, you look great. And I mean, I looked like Skeletor. Face was sucking in. And Task Force Dagger was like, we got to get you checked out.
Yeah.
So that's when they sent me down to Naples as well. They recommended it was TBIs, but also heavy metal poisoning. So when they sent me up to functional medicine at the Cleveland Clinic, and that's one of my top 5 lists too, is functional medicine for anybody that's dealing with any type of military issues.
What's functional medicine look like?
So it's a perspective of not the symptoms, but it's what's causing the symptoms. So the root cause of the problem.
Okay.
Right. So they go from, you know, doing a complete lab workup, genetic wise and everything, and then they address the root causes, and they address anything that falls within a natural biome of like your body, right? So, and I'm not a doctor, of course, but my understanding is it's about as natural as they can get, and to addressing the root cause from the molecular level, right? From all the way down to testing your genes to see what you're allergic to as a genetic process.
So, you know, when you start talking elimination diet, I know for me, when I was trying to be convinced that I needed to do one, right, it was like, hey, my quality of life, man, I want to be able to eat what I want to eat, and that was kind of a hard thing for me to get over. How bad was it for you when they eliminated the foods? Tell me about that.
The same thing. When they first eliminated, I was like, what the heck am I going to eat? I'm going to starve to death. And I was already skinny, right? Because I dropped all this weight. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. And, but the more I turned, and it's basically just turning back to whole foods, right? Staying away from any type of GMOs, any type of processed foods. They actually, you know, when they did start me off by eliminate like eggs, steaks based off of like genetics.
So proteins and stuff, right?
Certain proteins. So I was on like all the chicken, wild game I could eat, all the fish I could eat. They had me on certain legumes and nuts and stuff like that. So it was a really strict diet, and I learned how to eat on it. And I can tell you honestly, being on it, I felt the best I had ever felt.
Yeah.
Another thing that they recommended with that diet was testosterone replacement. Okay. And of course, we all know how the VA works, right? They're not going to give you nothing because the numbers nowadays, they're trying to demasculinize men.
Yeah, I went in last week. My testosterone was 320, and she told me, "Yep, you're good." I was like, "No, my testosterone's low." She's like, "No, it's good." She's like, "You're on the low end, but you're good."
And what they fail to see is like the guys in our career paths, and even women that do similar stuff to we all have higher testosterone levels than your typical male. So their low is rock bottom for us.
Sure.
You know, so they don't take that in because we don't have a baseline, right? Yeah. Did you get a testosterone test coming into the military?
No.
So, and there's a true difference. I mean, you look at pro athletes. You can look at a middle-aged man and a middle-aged pro athlete. Their testosterone levels are going to be totally different.
Absolutely.
So when we are in the top shape, doing what we're doing, you know, deploying, our testosterones were probably through the roof, I imagine, right? And then even though we're on the low side of the scale coming out, we're at the bottom for us. So it makes us feel that much worse. And the first thing happened was when they started injecting TRT in me, it helped with a lot of things. My sleep got better. Dealing with pain got better. Even though I had a lot of cognitive issues going on, I still had a little better clarity.
Right.
So it did help.
So I was going to ask you, and you mentioned it just briefly right now, that your sleep got better. How bad was your sleep during that time? Because I think what we're figuring out is that's generally the core problem that we have, right? We can't sleep, so our brain can't heal. Yep. And our body can't heal because we're never really getting into the REM sleep, right? And a lot of times we're using medications to put us into a sleep. And anyway, can you speak on that for a minute?
Yeah, so I was never a guy that was a big drinker or anything, so I never used alcohol to go to sleep. And I never been a guy that wanted to take drugs. In the military, they started me on drug process, a regime, and then the VA, of course, made me on a big one, right? So I didn't want to take drugs. So I would just lay in bed for hours because I could not turn off my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I self-medicated or something, yeah, sure, I could go to sleep. But I always had an issue with control. It was my personality. I didn't want to lose control of what was going on. And alcohol for me was a killer. Like I was, I was a 2-beer guy and I was drunk, I could do my liquor a little better, and we never understood that. So I kind of just rather stay away from alcohol. And of course they fed us with Ambien on all of our deployment. So I felt like crap when I was on Ambien. So I didn't want to do any of that stuff. So I just didn't sleep. And we all know what lack of sleep do, right? You start seeing stuff that's not there. You start hearing stuff that's not there. Irritability goes up, and then stress, inflammation in the body goes up. I mean, and then it's part of the downhill landslide.
And you're living, that's how you're living every day.
Yep. You're living on fumes, literally. It's the next dopamine, whatever that dopamine rush is, that keeps you awake and makes you feel like you're alive, right? Some people get it by doing drugs. Some people got it by speeding cars or jumping out of airplanes, whatever their choice of poison was. Mine was chasing women.
Sure.
And that I think that all kind of falls back to, as a kid, not having that mother there. But, I can say, though, as part of this whole healing process, I did reach out to her because when I had my son, she wanted to get back involved with my life and with her grandson.
Yeah.
And it took a lot. But I did. I forgive her. And that was a huge, huge load off my chest when I do that. And she's really, we have a good relationship, she's done a lot since then. But I'm so glad. And then, when I was able to forgive her, that was one less thing I had to worry about. Right. Something that didn't have to sit on my shoulder no more. One thing I actually finally unpacked instead of just cramming it to the back.
Yep.
It was really a relief, dude. And this was the only time I had a really serious talk with my dad about everything that happened in our relationship. And I told my dad, I said, look, dude, my mom did way worse to me because she was my mom. I said, you were married to her, sure. But I said, you got to forgive her. I forgive her. I said, I want you guys to talk this out. I said, you guys can be civil. And it was actually a great moment. My mom and my dad went for a walk and they came back. They were both staying at my house at the same time. So that was weird. But now they get along great. When they do get to see the kids, or if we have stuff going on, or we're visiting home and they need if we leave something or they need to talk to each other, communicate, no problems, man. It's like, they're not best friends, but they have a mutual respect for each other now that was not there when I was a kid.
That's awesome, man. And you made that happen. Sometimes the kids have to be the parents, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Wow. So you mentioned, so now they have a working relationship and they're being grandma and grandpa. So how's that relationship now with them and the kids?
So, they always continued a relationship with my kids because they were always around. Anytime my wife at the time needed help or wanted to do something, my parents would always say, "Hey, yeah, we'll help you." Nice. Right? Her parents was on the other side of the country, and so my parents was always highly involved with the kids.
Nice.
And it wasn't until later, when they got a little older, they just kind of drifted away from everything on our side of the family. And I honestly think I don't think it was vindictive. I just think it was the way she raised them when I wasn't around, and then, keep them away from us and our family. Because there was a time that my family didn't see them for a year, and I didn't see my kids for over 2 years and stuff. So, it was rough, and they still have a better relationship with their grandparents than I do, because grandparents are fun, right? They didn't have to be right. They didn't have to be the disciplinary ones, but I wouldn't change it because the discipline that my dad gave me, I've turned out all right.
Oh yeah,
I've done some good things. I've done things some men dream about doing, and now I'm getting to help others, and share God's word and just help and just save lives and use my experiences that I've had, the whole outcome from start to finish, and just try to educate the guys and gals and say, hey, there's a way out. Suicide's not it.
Right.
Right. We're gonna figure it out. And that's what I do now, right? Is I figure out how to save lives. And
well, before we get into Joint Task Force, real quick. So you mentioned Jeff, and you mentioned Task Force Dagger. How did you get connected with them? Did they come and seek you out, or did you find them?
So during my med board process, the SOCOM Care Coalition links up with you. I happened to fall in that perfect time frame where they were doing a lot of testing of different things for the guys like us. So, because they was in that frame where all these guys were getting in trouble. They were trying to figure out why is getting in trouble,
right?
Why is guys killing their wives? Why are guys doing all these drugs? Blah blah blah. So they started the stellar ganglion block testing and all that. So I got to do a lot of that early on testing of some of that stuff to help, the National Intrepid Spirit or whatever.
The Intrepid Spirit, yeah.
Yeah, so that was started to being built up while I was going through the med board process. They had a semi-1 there at Fort Bragg, so I was going through their whole program before it turned into the Intrepid Spirit at Bragg.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of different things. And so at some point during that process, the SOCOM Care Coalition and the Task Force Dagger, I just kind of linked up with them, right? And it was an outing. It was a scuba diving event is what really made the connection. Okay. Like that was the first involvement that I had with those guys. And believe it or not, one of my Deltas was involved with Task Force Dagger, and it was actually my Delta that first reached out to me downrange and said, "Hey, brother, we need to help you."
Okay.
So Task Force Dagger has been nothing but when they started getting involved with us and Jeff Dardia, I got a ray of hope because I was following those guys, and I swear by self-health awareness on Facebook. I think Jeff had a big hand in standing that up. Okay. But it keeps you up to date with a lot of things that are out there for the healing process.
Right.
Stuff about, what's new, what's being tested, what's worked. And you actually get guys from the soft community telling their story.
Right.
So it's a great networking progress. And none of that would have happened, I don't think, if if Jeff wasn't involved, Joint or Task Force Dagger wasn't involved. But when I did that dive, they seen what I was going through, and when I got back, that's the first thing they were like, "We got to get you some help." That's and awesome. I tell you, my handler through SOCOM Care Assortment was Sergeant Major Pete Habich, and he kept me on the straight and narrow that whole time, because during the med board process, if you did anything messed up, right, you could easily lose everything. Wow. You lose retirement, you lose all your benefits. Like, I was on that level.
Kind of borderline, huh?
Yeah. And Pete Habich was my SOCOM care coordinator, and he got everything lined up. He reached out to those guys, made sure they got me to where I needed to go. And if it wasn't for them, like I said, it's another one of those steps. I don't know if I'd be here.
Right.
Right. Because I ended up having heavy metal poison from all the breaching and breathing in all the stuff from shooting and stuff.
Now, how'd you get rid of that?
So at the functional medicine, they feed you this medicine, and it goes into your bloodstream, and then it coagulates all the heavy metals. Wow. So when you test, you actually take a long-term, I think it's blood test, and they do urine as a long-term collection. And basically, I think I had like 3 or 4 different heavy metals that was above normal standards. So I had arsenic was really high, lead was really, really high. Even though when we went through Sephardic and all that, we had lead testing. Yeah. Now, I never seen an outcome or, diagnosis or anything. But
they're keeping a tab on it.
Yeah, they were keeping a tab. So they had to have known that the lead was getting in her system. Yeah. And being 3 years in a SIF, eating charges and everything else, I mean, you get all that in your system, heavy weapons, all that stuff.
Yeah, there was a big push around that time to go to lead-free rounds, primers, and as much as we could anyway, because it was on their radar. They knew it was happening.
So functional medicine, I got up there, and the diagnosis was, you've got holes in every lobe. You've got heavy metal poisoning, which has contributed to those holes. Your organs are basically shutting down. So everything I had been eating over the last 6 months was just going right through me. And the VA was like, yeah, you're good. And if it wasn't for my wife telling me you need to go get help, and then Task Force Dagger actually sending me to get the help. Yeah.
So when you transitioned from active duty and Intrepid Spirit program into now medically retired and the VA system, there was a big disconnect, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. The that transition period that should have happened at some point for me never happened, because I just wasn't ready to take it. And then the VA, when you go to them, they just want to push drugs, right? So like the first 2, well, let's say my first primary care, I had to fire day 1 with the VA. So I'm living a nightmare coming out, transitioning from the Army care to VA care. Mm-hmm. And my doctor's looking at me telling me, I can't help you. You can't do this, that, or this. And I'm like, I couldn't understand him. Nothing against foreigners, but he was Haitian, didn't speak English that well. And I had all this issues. I was still suicidal, right? Yeah. I was on 16 different medications that the VA put me on.
Jesus, 16.
Yeah, and it was anything from sleeping to mood suppressors to nightmares. Yeah. I was having cold sweats, tremors, dude. I would hit my wife, my current wife at the time, in the middle of the night for not even realize it. Yeah. Sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is another thing. And I would stop breathing, freak my wife out.
Yeah.
And didn't even realize it. So, we talked about sleep earlier.
Yeah.
We may sleep, but we're not sleeping. Like my body, I would wake up the next day and my body felt like it had no rest.
Yeah.
My brain wasn't rested. I was tired every step of the day. Now, as long as I was doing something, that's fine. But as soon as I sat down, Z Monster, right? But that was my transition, right? It's all medical based. I moved out of Fort Bragg during my transitioning down to Myrtle Beach because I was, like I said, I was running. I didn't want to be nowhere near the military. I turned everything and looked away. That didn't help out at all. That made things worse because now I had no structure, no discipline, no battle buddies, right? None of my friends were there anymore. And it was all my fault.
No accountability.
No accountability. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to answer to nobody. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was bad. Next thing you know, I'm going through a school. I graduate barely, right? Because I couldn't take the disrespect that the kids had towards the teachers and other fellow students. There was a lot of veterans in our class, dude. I dropped tons of F-bombs telling them to shut the F up because, the teacher's trying to give a lesson. And, military, we shut up when we were being spoken to. Right? And you only spoke when you're addressed personally. And these kids were just rude. So I struggled through college. And it was just a golf program, right? Okay. So I couldn't even do that. And then I was trying different jobs at that point. So now I'm starting to get a little healthier. I want to try some different jobs. So I got into a little bit of contracting. Just some odd end stuff, right? Just see what I could do, and nothing like flip my switch. Yeah. There was nothing for me, right? Nothing could match the same feeling that I got from the military.
You went from being this high-level performer, and you were the elite of the elite, right? I mean, you're a Green Beret, and you're deploying. Your purpose is, to free the oppressed.
Yep.
Now you're trying to replace that.
Yep. Get that person or that purpose and mission in life again, because who I thought I was no longer part of my life. Sure, it changed you and made me who I am, but it's not who I'm going to be. Yeah. So it's now, that's when that transition period and the health starts kicking. So everything's starting to come to a head, right? I found a good woman that can actually put up with my stuff.
That's a hard ask too.
Oh boy. I mean, bless her soul, because it's our wives and stuff that get the brunt of our problems.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize that, right?
They're the only ones we really trust.
Yeah.
And we can take off the mask in front of them, and we can really be us.
And you know what help they get? They get zero. Like, we're in a bad spot and we're getting help. Think about the spouses, right? So, because every bit of our issues go to them.
Yeah.
Right? Just like, our dogs, right? Our issues go to the dogs. So, I had a great wife going, right? Slowly getting off of all my meds, right? And I was slowly creeping back into the military realm, right? I was starting a contract. I wanted to be around the boys again. Sure. And it was all because I started the healing process. And I'm kind of addressing that right now with Congress too. I'm trying to anyways. I know a lot of things is changing within the VA and the voc rehab and stuff. But one thing, my problem is, I think it's voc rehab. You only get a certain amount of time to use it, right? Once you exit, you get so many years to use vocational rehab. The post 9/11 GI Bill and all that was like that, but now I think it got it to where you can use it kind of forever now, until you use all the benefits up. Voc rehab is, you got a certain amount of time to use it. But the problem is that a lot of the guys that get out, they're not in a point of their transition. They're not healthy enough to use it.
That's right.
So when it comes time, or even healthy enough to even think about what they want to do. So during that transition period, we need to push it out. And then that voc rehab should only be used and started once they're ready. Right. So I'm trying to work that out. Right. And it's just another way of me helping the guys out, because this is some of the issues that I've ran into. Right. So if we can get them to change the law and say, hey, voc rehab starts when these guys are physically, mentally ready to try to adjust the job. And then you get that timeline. And I think that's what's fair for what these guys have done for us.
I agree with you. And it should be, because once you start that process, right, I think they give you about 36 months, give or take, to
something like that.
The degree
depending
that you're
on that
for.
Program. Yeah.
Right. So and again, I don't know a ton about all the stipulations, the vocational rehab, but yeah, if that's the case, that you've only gotten a certain amount of time to use it, I'd agree with you that timeline should definitely be extended.
Right, and that kind of fits in the transition, right? And that's why I think transitioning needs to be more health initiative, and then the transition begins. Right. Instead of you got a year to transition out of the Army or whatever branch of service you're in. You've been taught to kill and go, but now we're not going to teach you how to slow down.
Right.
So I think to save a lot of these guys' mental coming out, we have to change that. We have to start addressing it before they come out from a mental and health perspective, right? And then we actually transition the guys out, because a lot of the guys aren't prepared to transition mentally, health-wise. So you're just talking one ear and out the other. And I was that exact person.
Well, it's like until you're completely pulled away from the team and from the mission set, you don't really get that time to back away, because there's still somebody that's expecting something from you, right? There's still your mind's still in the game. So I don't disagree that there should be a transition period there, but I guess so the Army, all the services, they're a machine. They're going to continue to run, right? And they need to be able to do that. And they don't need to be so concerned about us while they're running. So I almost feel like that accountability piece should fall on the VA. Right?
I agree.
Like there should be that transition where the guys and gals that need it, they get that extra attention. And if it's 6 months and you need inpatient care, whatever that looks like, it should be provided, right?
Regardless of your status coming out, if you have issues leaving, regardless of what percentage, they should address those issues until your transition is complete. Right?
Absolutely. There should be programs that exist like that. And what they look like exactly, I think it's going to be dependent, right? It can't be cookie cutter. That's one thing that we've learned, especially with operator syndrome, right? Is you can't treat everybody the same,
right? Because
we are different. I mean, you mentioned the micro concussions and the scarring and the holes in your brain, right? Yet you were diagnosed with PTSD, so we're going to treat you for PTSD, and this is what has been known to work for PTSD. So this is what we're going to give you, and it happens to be a whole bunch of pills,
right?
And the pills don't fix the brain. The pills don't fix a lot of those things. So again, you're almost just treating the symptoms, right? And that's been the structure for the last, I don't know how many years, but that is the easy button, right? Give these guys more pills and just continue to mask the symptoms. We're never really going to try to fix the symptoms,
right?
Right. I have some theories on the why behind that, but we won't get into that on this episode. But at the end of the day, it's everybody needs to get assessed individually.
Correct.
It cannot be this group goes into here. We have to individualize as we come out of the military.
Can't be a assembly line.
Right.
Each person has to have their special route that they have to take.
And we owe it to them.
Yep.
Right? I mean, when you joined the service, you came in on a promise that if you do this for us, that we will do this for you.
Yep.
Right? And that's what it is. You did your part, and now the VA needs to do their part. Yep. It's just plain and simple.
Yep.
So we need to continue to have these conversations and fix it, right? It's not that it's unfixable. It's going to continue to need work and continue to build on it. And I think we're getting the right people, at least now, in the Department of War and in the right places where they're delineating some things.
Yes.
It's no longer this military where we're all this big happy fan. Like, no, we have structure, we have standards, and we're all gonna meet those. And if you don't, then you're gonna leave, right? So I appreciate where we're at. I've also heard the VAs looking into kind of the right to try, right? So some of these medicines that we're talking about that the VA doesn't cover right now, like they are at least in the planning phases, from what I understand, of kind of doing almost a voucher system that the VA will cover these specialty treatments. But I don't know exactly where we're at with those. But I do know that they are adapting as we go.
Yeah, and I think that's the way we got to go. We got to stay away from the meds because it doesn't fix the problem. It makes them worse 99% of the time. Yeah, there is some meds that needs to be used in certain cases, and the guys and gals, you know, that it's another piece of the pie for the healing process, right? You know, we got to hit every part of the pie.
Sure.
Right? We got to do the mental, we got to do the spiritual, the physical. We got to do drugs when we have to do drugs when it's necessary. So it's just part of it, and I think that's part of the healing process is addressing the different, because we are different, and what works for you may not work for me. But if we address it and we address everything else as part of the healing process, then guess what? I'm a big believer that we can get back to a place where we can give back to society and help those over there. And I'm a living proof of it.
Absolutely. And just kind of a reminder out there that there's no silver bullet that exists that's just going to fix all of our problems, right? So these are all different tools that, I mean, you talked about a few different treatments that you went through, that you tried. You talked about the stellate ganglion block. You talked about the altitude chamber. There were a few things that were very positive that had nothing to do with medicine. It was going through, you know, those processes. Another tool that we were both introduced to, and I really think it's a great time to talk about it, and it kind of caveats into what you're doing now, right? So the K9s.
Yes.
Right. So how did you get introduced to K9s, and then let's get into that.
Man. So I'm pretty sure by now everybody's seen Quill.
I did the intro with me.
Nice. So I always had my own pets, right? And I always liked dogs. And I reached out to a nonprofit organization to get a service dog, and I was going to have another organization train it for me. So I got this dog, and I was working with it because I had always worked my own pets. And I was thinking, okay, he's going to be my service dog. We're going to do our thing. He's going to help me out, right? And at that point, I had no idea what I was doing, what I was getting into, where I was going. And so I took him over to this nonprofit, and the trainer took it, and I get a call like a week later. And at this time, I'm in Myrtle Beach, right? And the dog's out in Georgia. And he was like, hey, man, I need you to come meet me. You got to pick up this dog. It's got too much hound in it, and I just can't do nothing with it. But it's crazy because I had already had the dog doing basic obedience stuff like in the time. And he was kind of confused by it, too, as a trainer. He was like, man, you got that dog doing this stuff. And so I said, all right, well, I'll come get it. And it was crushing, man, because I was really looking forward to having a service dog.
Right.
And I thought that was going to be my win, right? I didn't know exactly what it was going to do for me, but I was like, it's got to work, man. You got these guys using service dogs, and they can actually go out and do stuff. So in the meantime, I was working with I was in Myrtle Beach, and I reached out to a nonprofit to do a golf charity event.
Okay. And
I was going out to do some golfing, and I got to meet the president of the nonprofit, and that nonprofit was Special Operations Wounded Warriors, right? So they specifically went after soft guys, right? And they had a lot of different programs, and I did most of their programs, right? They had hunting where you get the guys around the campfire and stuff. So I got to do that. That was helpful. The golfing event and stuff like that. But for what they seen that I needed, and after telling them a story about my service dog not being a service dog,
right?
They were like, "You need a service dog, and you need one now." And they seen it like 7 years ago. I was still suicidal, right? I just got out. They just put me on meds, right? And yeah, I was going through the healing process, but I'm still by myself. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm not doing that well in school. So I was suicidal. And they were like, "Yeah, we need to get you a dog ASAP." So they said, reach out to this person. So that's the company up in Canada is where I got my dog from. And I go up there, and before I go up there, though, I'm telling them, "Hey, I got this other dog, and I want my wife to be involved. I want her to go through the healing process because I think she can get maybe something out of it too."
Okay.
Right. And she'll be able to see, because it was not just me, there's other veterans and stuff with the same type of issues. So, and you know how us guys are, when we get together, we talk like we're battle buddies, dude. Like nothing has changed. Even if I never met you in my life, because you're in the service, and especially if you're a soft guy, right? We kick it off.
Right.
So my wife is getting to see the true stuff, right? Not the stuff that I'm hiding from her. So she's seeing the frustration. She's seeing it in the other guys. And now she's telling herself, "Oh, this makes sense." Right? So she's starting to see what I'm seeing. And they brought my dog out. And the moment I had that lead in my hand, it totally changed my entire life. Like, I fell in love with that dog. The philosophy that they use, I say I had a lot of life-saving events over time, and I think I truly did, right? And this is my latest one, and probably my last one, because I don't have a need to commit suicide anymore. I'm just so glad I'm here. I'm so glad I'm able to help people and try to be a small part and do God's work and make sure the guys and gals don't go through what I had to go through. Yeah, they're gonna go through a little bit of it before I can get my hands on them.
Right.
But if I can get my hands on them, I've not had one person that's committed suicide that I've given a dog to. I've had spouses call me and tell me, "Hey, he wouldn't be alive if you didn't tell him he was going to get a dog." And I know what that feeling is, because when I got him, it totally changed my whole entire life. And he started this organization, and I didn't even know it yet. So everything I did from the day I got him was based off of him. And again, this philosophy revolves around God and believing that the dog they're seeing the spiritual world, the vibration, the auras around us that we don't see.
Right.
And they can see it. We got to learn how to communicate, and they can guide us through life, right? They can tell us who's bad, who has bad intentions. They can let us know, so we don't have to watch over our back. We got our true battle buddy there, right? And he took the weight off my shoulders, and these guys are telling me the same thing. They're saying, I can go out in restaurants and I can wait for a seat. I can sit with my back to the door because my dog's there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and at the same time, I train these dogs to recognize cortisol.
Okay, so explain that to me real quick, because this is one of the coolest things about how you train.
So the biggest difference between what we do and a lot of other organizations is I want to go after the root cause, right? So that root cause is stress, right? PTSD, operator syndrome, TBIs, they all have overlapping symptoms, right? As far as everything that I've seen. And so I'm thinking, well, what can be done? Something's got to be putting its head out there. So I'm starting to Google things, right? And I'm thinking these dogs can pick up so much more and have so much more capabilities than we give them credit for.
Right.
Because I've seen them working down range, man. I've seen dogs do things that, dogs have saved so many lives. And when I got this new shirt getting ready to be put out, and it's got a military working dog, a police dog, and a service dog. And it's kind of got our motto in it, right? Our motto is saving lives one dog at a time, but what we're going to say is saving lives since 1776.
Nice.
So we've all worked with these dogs. And so we know their capabilities. We know what to expect with these type of dogs. And when you train them in your cortisol, I'm actually collecting a stress hormone during times of triggers, right? So it's a 14-month program. Okay. 12 months of it is basically strictly obedience through stress, right? I got to see how much stress each dog can deal with because everybody's different. And our stress levels are constantly going up and down, especially guys with PTSD and all these different diagnosis, right? So I gotta see what the dogs can handle stress wise. So all their training is through stress, and it's a 12-month program of obedience and stressful stuff. And then the last 2 months of their training is all cortisol samples. So what I've done is I've ID'd what dog is going to go to what guy based off of what stress that dog can handle. And of course, nothing's cookie cutter. So I'm looking at the guys' personalities. I'm looking at their lifestyles. What does it consist of? Does this dog match that lifestyle? Because none of our dogs are cookie cutters. I take dogs and match them to every aspect of their lives that I can, right? So the next step is, how do I ID their handler, and how do I prevent a PTSD attack from happening? Or can I? Well, science tells us that when you pet a dog, it lowers your cortisol level and you get a dopamine spike. Well, that means there's no stress there. So you can't have a PTSD attack. So my next question was, well, how do I train a dog? Because they are very well at scent, right? They can smell pretty much anything and everything, even if there's nothing there. If I just walk across the grass field, they can follow my footsteps, right? Exactly where I went.
Sure.
So if they can do that, they can damn sure sense the levels. Well, diabetic dogs do it.
Yeah.
Seizure dogs do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, body fluids. So I'm Googling, I'm saying, hey, how do I can recognize cortisol levels, right? And it says you can collect it in saliva, you can collect it in sweat, and you can collect it in blood. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, how do I train a dog to recognize cortisol level training? So first you got to come up with a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the guys to collect the baseline for me. And it's kind of unrealistic, but it's kind of realistic because it's the best that they can be at the time of their healing process, or whatever that is.
This is my everyday.
This is my everyday, calmest, coolest, most relaxed I can be.
Yep.
Pop it in. I want to sample. And I get 5 to 10, but primarily 5 because I just need to show the dog, hey, this is
normal.
This is the start. This is normal. I want you to pay attention, but this is everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the guys collect every trigger that they come across. Now, I don't want them doing like 2 or 3 samples on the same trigger, right? Because what I want is a trigger to happen. They get a sample, and then a different trigger happens because that sample collection is going to be different. So I'm looking for a wide variety of sample collection, and I want real world, right? I don't want it to be sterile. So if they're eating food and they have a trigger, I want that collection because the dog is going to recognize that during eating food. If they're drinking, I don't want them to change their lifestyle, right, while collecting cortisol because I want it to be real world.
Right.
I want the dog to live real world and train real world. So what better to do than collect it real world? So nothing's necessarily sterile because the dog they can smell molecule levels, right? So they can separate everything in this room. They can smell, and they know what you had for dinner. They know what you drank just a while ago, probably. Like they can smell the different molecules. Now they don't know the differences, but they know that's a different smell.
Okay.
Right. And just like we talked about, we believe there's a vibration in the aura. They can also see that. Right. So we believe with our philosophy that with the cortisol training, and then we ID the triggers, we can train the dog, and we do this. We train the dog to recognize anything above a baseline cortisol level, right? And again, I don't care what the number collection is. If I get a wide variety, it gives me a really wide. And then we collect a few full-blown attacks, right? Because the dog's not going to be able to pick up 100%, because some triggers may happen and it's instantaneous, like a firework going off. Or if you're driving down the street, some car backfire, that may trigger something, right? So the dog needs to be able to comfort the guys through that full-blown attack. Now, that's what most organizations do. They train to the event. Now, dogs will naturally pick up on cortisol levels. They will. It comes with the bond. We don't give the dogs a credit. So when you're really bonding with a dog and you're doing stuff with your dog, they can naturally pick up on that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer, hey, if your dog's doing that, he's doing that. I don't care if you trained him, somebody else trained him. If he's providing you a service and it's obedient, go get it. Yeah. Certified. Like, there's no certification, but like I tell the guys, come bring him to me. I'll give you an assessment. And then if he's actually doing the job that my dogs are doing, why not? He's a service dog.
Right.
Right. The only thing about our dogs is they're coming out of the hole knowing exactly who their handler is, exactly what their scent is, from a molecular, a hormone level. And I honestly can't tell you if that's what they're scenting, but the way I collect it, it's the only thing it can be. So I am looking at doing a medical study. If somebody at some point, maybe a couple years down the road, when we really got our program really going, because I'm new, right? We started, so I started the organization roughly 6 years after receiving him. And we're seeing the same thing across the map with any dogs that I've given out that's preventing up to 98% of these attacks from happening. And I say 98% because that fast, that bang or whatever puts you in. And maybe they're having an off day, so maybe they're not doing 98%. Maybe they're doing a 90% day or whatever. They're living creatures, right? Yeah. So the biggest thing is their concentration, their bond is for you. They live to work for you. And that's part of our training process, right? I don't do balls. I don't do toys. I don't do treats, none of that stuff. Because I want the dog to work for the handler. And if they're working for the handler, they're going to be tuned in to the handler.
And like you're going to provide everything as the handler. And so that bond just continues to grow stronger, which kind of brings me up to another point that I think it's important that we hit, right? So when you're out with your service dog and say you go to a restaurant and you go order, and of course the cook, he sees you got a dog and he wants to be cool and he wants to give him some bacon or, give him some chicken. And so they come around and it's like, hey, can I give your dog a treat? A lot of times you got to tell them no, right? It's like, no, you can't feed my dog. But then they look at you like you're just a jerk, right? I just want to pet your dog, man. Like, what's the big deal? Can you tell me the why behind that?
Yeah, so the why is really kind of based off of old stuff, right? So CNI dogs, hearing eye dogs, right? That's where ADA really started. We never had PTSD dogs and stuff like that. So we're kind of stuck in old school mind thought process, and again, not giving the dog credit. So yeah, I totally agree, right? Those dogs, you should never interfere with those type of dogs, right? For one, you got to always ask and a lot of times we don't even get asked. Like, people nowadays, they'll just come up and not even ask. Even with all the collars and
do not pet and all the signs.
Pet. So it's just a lack of education, right? Because they're used to seeing pets. Service dog is a new thing in the last 10 years, I guess. Mm-hmm. The service dogs really started coming out because before it was just for the special cases, right? The people that are blind. I don't think I can recall ever seeing any service dogs growing up until military.
Yeah. It was few and far between. I remember growing up, we had we had a deaf area, and I don't believe they had a dog, but I did see a blind dog a time or two when I was growing up, but it wasn't often. So with that bond that you have with your dog, he's looking to you for everything, and he's looking for permission for you from everything. It was really cool to watch, but today we're at the event center, and you had to go back to the truck, and you didn't want to take your dog through the sticker patch again, right? And it was cool. You carried him through. But anyway, long story short, his eyes didn't leave your back for the 2 minutes that you were going to your truck. Like, he was just locked onto you, and I couldn't get his attention away from it. Like, he just had that strict bond with you.
Yeah.
And I would think, if I'm providing stuff for him, if I'm giving him treats and I'm over here trying to pull his attention away from his mission, right? I think that's kind of a fear that I would have with trying to give your dog treats, right?
Yeah.
Trying to take him away from what his primary role is.
Yeah. So that's where the problem comes in, right? So the problem is, because people don't ask, they just assume that things can happen. And it's a distraction from the dog doing their job. Now, depending on, like, the guys that they get my dog, if they're fairly new, 2 or 3 years, maybe having them, a lot of times I just, especially in the beginning, don't let anybody pet your dog, right?
Yeah.
Your dog needs to bond with you. Your dog only needs to bond with you. I need you guys to have the best relationship you can have.
That's right.
Yeah, he's expected to go through crowds, and if people touch him, he's not to react, stuff like that. But I recommend the guys not to allow anybody to pet their dog, because during that bonding phase, they're learning how to be new handlers again, right? So if they're starting to let people interact with them and the dog, they're showing the dog that, hey, we get to interact with people, and now I don't have to do my job as a service dog.
Sure.
So a little different, my story with my dog, right? Because he's kind of a mascot for the nonprofit, but also I've had him for so long that he is really, and this is why I want to do this medical study, right? Because we're seeing the effect that these dogs are having. After 5 years, the guys are able to control everything. Like, they're no longer in the dumps to where we still have issues, right? Memory issues. We still have our irritability minutes and stuff like that. But we're able to, instead of avoid all of our issues, we're able to think about what we're doing. And it's all because we have to learn how to communicate with the animal that doesn't communicate in English to us, right? So some of the therapy classes and stuff that we do with the dogs and some of their training is we blindfold them. We start taking away their senses. So now they have to trust in that energy, right? That spiritual, that the realm we don't see.
Right.
And then they have to trust that their dog, because once you take a guy's eyes from them, the fear kind of goes away, because now you're concentrating on other senses, the feel, the sounds. So now your mind is distracted. So we use the dogs as part of the healing process as well, right?
To distract you. So you're having to take care of your dog, right? I can't think about me if I'm worried about my dog.
Right. So he's your battle buddy. You got to make sure he's okay. He's taking care of you.
Yeah.
And then all your frustration, all your frustrations going into the dog. Now the dog, so people think that you get this dog and automatically you're healed, right? You got this trained service dog. And I don't believe that way. I think dogs do great and they can heal and have all this, but there's always a start. And as we know, and I don't want to go into politics, but kind of like the country's in now, there's always a growing pain before you start the healing process.
Sure. It gets worse before it gets better.
Right. So the dogs, when they first come, people think, oh man, this is going to be great. I'm going to have it's work.
I would think that's putting a target on you as a disabled veteran. Now it's like hanging a sign around your neck saying, "Hey,
come look at me. I've
got problems," right? And now you don't really know how to use this new tool that you got, and you're taking it out in public. It's kind of like you just got your driver's license, and you don't want to scratch your car, so you're trying to do everything right.
So you're nervous.
Oh man.
So people think, it's totally opposite. The first 6 months, until they really get the click, and it's kind of because they're working dogs too, right? If I had some big lazy lab, different story, right? They're kind of easygoing.
Sure.
These guys are working breeds, man, and I use these dogs because that's what the guys are used to.
Yeah.
They don't want a fluffy dog like some guys do, and that's fine, right? But the guys that we're dealing with and the gals that we're dealing with, like for instance, we're helping sexually assaulted females, right? A female wants protection, regardless if the dog does protection or not. A dog with pointy ears is a deterrent, right? So that's a sense of security that now she can have and don't have to worry about, is that guy going to do something to me? He's getting too close, right? She can actually go out and be out with friends. Maybe alcohol is not a thing, but maybe she wants to have a drink. She can have a drink with her friends and not have to worry about getting roofied because that dog's there, right?
Sure.
Nobody's going to mess with a female with this type of dog. No. It's just not going to happen. So, and this is kind of what we do for our females because they don't have the opportunity to be in combat, but some of them go through worse stuff than what the guys go through.
100%.
So we got to give an opportunity to help those in need, and so we do it with the females that way. But you know, the guys and gals are used to seeing our type of dogs. And when you got these dogs that are preventing these type of attacks from happening, and the bond that's created, it's rough in the beginning, but the outcome is what we're looking towards, and the philosophy of working our issues through the dog's issues, right? So the dog's going to feed off your energy. So, you know, the saying that a dog is an exact replica of their handler.
Right.
So, because guess what? That lead, all those energy, that vibration, because everything consists of a vibration, right?
It's an energy field, right?
It's energy, right? Everything has energy. You can't destroy it, recreate it. It's there, and they can see that, right? So that energy from us goes into the dog. The dog's issues come out, but it's not really the dog's issues. It's our issues working out through the dog. So we're addressing our issues through the dog, right? And so now they're providing us a medical issue. Now we're working our personal issues through the dog, whatever they may be, right? Trust issues, just learning how to communicate better, because now you got to learn how to talk to this dog because they don't understand English. So that's all part of the bond.
Patience that you were talking about earlier, right? This is where that really comes into play because you can't hurry that process.
No.
You can't pay for the process. You can't do anything to make it go faster. It's just going to take how long it takes.
And if I give you a dog that's 100% complete, right, you're not going to do that. And so that dog's going to do nothing but regress, right? You got to have a purpose, especially the guys in the military, because when we get out in law enforcement, we lose that purpose. We lose that drive. So the dog provides us a means, a tool to get back into the work, the purpose, and to get back into structure. Because that's one thing I do with the guys. I don't sugarcoat nothing. I'm straight up honest, direct. I get them back in the military mindset because guess what? It kept us alive for how many years?
Right.
And walking away from it doesn't help you. Don't run from what you learn from it, right? And grow from it. So when you leave the military, you lose all that structure, that discipline. You have nothing but failure to look towards. But as soon as we start putting structure and discipline, because they're having to take care of the dog now, they have something they have to be accountable for, because we're not accountable for ourselves at that point, right? Because we lost that. We rely on that dog. JTFK9s relies on that dog to motivate that guy, to get the guy off the couch, to get him away from fighting his demons, to get that help mentally.
Get him out of his own head.
Get him out of his head. And then the best thing about our organization, because this is what helped me ultimately, is once they're ready to go back to work, they have a capability of going back to work. So these dogs are capable of doing search and rescue, HRD. We, as a nonprofit, we respond to natural disasters, right? So what I do is when these guys are ready to get off that couch and to get that purpose and mission and everything again, we give them that capability, because I'll tell them, hey, you just get to me. If I have room for you to stay in, you can stay. I'll cover it. I'm going to train you for free, right, to give you that skill to go back to work. And then guess what? Now they get to go help out their community.
Right.
They have a purpose in life. They're no longer sitting on the couch fighting their demons. Their dog's working on the medical side of it. it's a win-win. They got purpose, drive, mission again, and guess what? They have a best friend, a battle buddy, and they never have to worry about watching their back ever again.
That's right. Somebody to be accountable to.
Yep.
And vice versa, right?
Yep. So we don't have to avoid stuff now. Now we have something to take up that space, right? And concentrating on that and working through his frustrations and your frustrations through the dog has been a huge part of the healing process too. I mean, one thing we see, and we really want to do a lot of these therapy courses, is we put the guys under stress to accomplish tasks by, with, and through their dogs, right? Mm-hmm. Just like the military, you work by, with, and through your local indige. So we do that with the dogs under stress, and that's how we assess these guys. But the ultimate thing that's coming out of it is they learn they have to communicate. So they take that pregnant pause, right? Instead of knee-jerk reactions every time something's done, because guess what? They can't knee-jerk react with a dog. Mm-hmm. That dog's going to look at them like, what are you doing? Right? And so we're getting them to accomplish tasks. A dog that don't speak English, under stress. And what we're seeing is even if they don't get a dog, they go back, they're a little bit better at communicating and working through some of their issues. So that's a big part of our program, and we're looking at starting that up pretty soon. I'm looking at building a facility this year.
Okay.
I'm getting ready to buy some. Personally, I'm going to buy some land so the nonprofit don't have a bill. Right. I don't want the nonprofit to spend money that's unnecessary. I want to be good stewards of people's money. I want the money to go to the cause. So we're going to get that training facility built hopefully this year with God. You know, if God sees it.
Right.
Deems it, and when this happens, we're going to be able to do 3 6-man therapy classes during midway of their training, and that's going to allow me to assess the guys, assess the dogs, see who's bonding, and it's going to really allow me to really match these guys and gals to the dogs, right? So we don't have that return dog, because we've had out of the 18 dogs, I've had to rehome 2.
Okay.
And out of 19 dogs, I've only had 1 fail the program. And then we've also partnered with a couple other organizations. So I do things because I'm a big believer in I can help out people, but if I partner with the other organizations or other nonprofits or whatever, I can help out more. Right? Exactly. We help out more as a team, and also that's part of the healing process. Right? Sure. Is helping others help others. Right? And spreading that love, spreading the gospel, fellowshipping, bringing that brotherhood, and just getting back to the basis of helping each other. So I partner with as many organizations as I can. I've given out 5 dogs that way as well.
Oh, nice.
And, maybe they've done partial training. They've done the obedience. So I might just take it and do the cortisol training, or do one-on-ones with a guy that has a dog that I've assessed, and they've done a great job, but he don't know how to take it to that next level to do a service dog. So I do stuff like that just to help where I can, and then also I do these partnerships because remember I said the healing process is a pie. If I see something that nobody else is seeing, I want to be able to say, "Hey, dude, you're not ready for a dog, but maybe I seen you over here.
Right.
You go get help over here. Now you're ready for a dog and you can come back. Or you are ready for a dog, but I want to see you get help over here."
Sure.
Right? Because a lot of times, the guys, they get overweight coming out of the military.
Right.
Well, guess what the dog does? Forces them to get off the couch,
Right.
forces them to walk. I've had guys in wheelchairs receive dogs, and they said, I hadn't left the house in years, but as soon as I got the dog, I was walking 5 miles every morning with my dog. Wow. So the dog forces them to get off the couch, back active, force them to be in uncomfortable situations.
Oh, for sure.
It forces them to keep that military bearing, to get back in that mindset. And that's what we're about, man. We're about no games. Hey, I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. It kept you alive this long. Let's get back into the same rhythm, the battle rhythm, man. Let's go.
Brother, that sounds like an amazing program. So we talk about support. So obviously you need support. You're offering all this training. You're offering the dogs, and this is all free of cost to the veteran.
Yeah, absolutely free. I fly them to Myrtle Beach, where we're headquarters out of, or Vegas. We do give one dog out of Vegas every year.
Okay.
But I fly them to Myrtle Beach or Vegas, and we do all their training. So we cover all their travel, we cover all their food, all their lodging. It doesn't cost them a dime.
Wow.
And the reason why I do that is because when I got out, I couldn't afford
Of course.
to travel somewhere to do that. So if it causes me to do extra work to help others, then so be it. That's my calling, and that's why I do it. So for me to help others when they couldn't do it for themselves, that's big.
Bro, you hit the nail on the head, man. You know, a lot of the treatments, they're expensive, right? And the guys and gals, as they're getting out, when they're in their downward spiral, they're usually not financially set, and they need, so they need help from all angles. How can I help you, right? So for the audience at home, how can we donate? Like, do you have a site? Where can we find it?
Yeah, our website's the easiest way. It's JTFK, the number 9s.org. You can do .com or .net. They'll all direct back to .org.
Okay.
So we have that, and on that there's a donation page, and there's multiple ways. I believe we have an active link tree on there that also have different ways. You can do like monthly, where it comes out automatically through a PayPal payment system that we have.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people that is actually reaching out and giving us money monthly, just automatically comes to us. And a lot of our funding, believe it or not, is kind of home roots kind of funding. We do a lot of local events in Myrtle Beach, and now we're expanding. We're looking at being down here right now during this the SOF symposium that we're doing.
Right.
So we're looking at expanding into this possibly next year. So we're a grassroots fundraising. So we just knuckle dragging events, stomping the roads, knocking on doors, corporate sponsorship. So there's means to where you can personally sponsor a dog, or a group of people can get together, or business can get together. And the way we do that, right? So for us to run our program, everything we want to do, the therapy, the travel to cover all the guys' flights, their food and everything, it's expensive, right? So it costs me for everybody and everything we want to do $150,000 a year. Okay. And I look at it like this: we give out 6 dogs, nobody gets paid, right? So 100% of that money can be divided by 6 dogs.
So $25K.
$25K, right? You can. An organization or individual or whatever can sponsor a dog, $25K. We bring that dog to where that money comes from. They get to pick a primary and an alternative person to receive that dog. So from their community supporting that guy or that gal receiving that dog. So I bring that dog to them. We do it at a sporting event, a concert, some type of event, so the people can physically see where their money's going to. Here recently, we just did one at a Baltimore Ravens game versus Cincinnati. We gave a W amputee below the waist his dog as a presentation. Now he receives that dog in the next 2 months permanently.
Right.
But that's where your money goes, right? So you can sponsor dogs. We do grants. Any way we can get financial donations, we that's what we're doing. We're all about. But there's other ways, right? So there's volunteer means. Right now there's not a whole lot, but when we get our training facility, we're actually going to do kind of group settings where people can come in the morning and the evening, and I do a class ran dog training session with the pups. So they actually have a hand in training the pup. So as a volunteer, they get to manage the dog through a class.
Oh, that's great.
Right. So we're getting to socialize the dog that way, right? So they're getting used to being around different people and being out in public. So we're really working on that temperament, that demeanor, which is important for service dogs.
Sure.
But you can also follow us on like social media.
Yeah. What are your social medias?
So most of the handles, you can just search JTF, the number K9s. Instagrams like that. We have Facebook, but you can go straight to our website too, and it's got all of our links, right? So we have a YouTube page. It's at JTFK9s as well, with the S, and we have Instagram, LinkedIn, X. We're getting ready to start up a TikTok, yes, TikTok account. I was waiting on all that government stuff to work out.
Yeah, they had to figure it out.
Yeah. So we want to do that. Our YouTube channel, we're taking. This year we had our first litter, so we started doing our own in-house breeding.
Oh wow!
And
so you got to watch the pups grow.
So that's the plan, right? And with me being new to that world, I didn't do so well this last year and didn't have the help to really do it. So this year I'm really planning on, I kind of got a setup to where I can be able to record me with training the pups weekly and then putting out a video each week of training the puppies all the way up from birth to when they go out to a veteran.
Wow.
That way people can really understand, because a lot of people don't understand service dogs, right? And part of our mission is to educate the community, educate whoever. And so if we can put out these YouTube videos and people start following us, it actually helps us raise money for the nonprofit as well.
Right.
Kind of like Meta too. So like all of our reels, if you just watch them and share them and like them, all that helps raise money for the nonprofit to do what we do. And nobody gets paid.
So all your proceeds, all donations, everything goes right back into the program.
Right back into the program.
To pairing up these veterans with these amazing animals.
Yep. Now, at some point, we're going to have to start hiring, and I have hired a couple of things, but it's for the mission
costs.
Yeah.
But yes, so all proceeds are going right back into the operations and right back into to giving back. That's
all of our board members are volunteers, and they're all veterans, so they know what the guys and gals are going through.
Right.
So we don't have any question about, hey, is it okay if this veteran talks? No, man, because they know what they're going through.
Right.
So,
man, that's awesome. So, definitely going to drop your link tree down in the description. We're going to drop links for Task Force Dagger down in the description, because obviously they were a huge help in your healing journey, right?
Very much so.
So we'll get all your social medias in there. We'll get your donation link down there and give people the best chance at being able to directly link with you.
Yeah.
Whether they want to support or they're in need of a service dog. So what does that application process, if I want to reach out to you and I think I'm a good candidate, I know you said you're going to do your assessment of the applicants, but what is that application process?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you have to be a combat veteran with PTSD.
Okay.
Or TBI, right? So in our case, operator syndrome, it gets diagnosed as PTSD. So we look at it as operator syndrome too. So one of those three categories,
okay,
right? Because we can address all those issues the same with the service dog through preventing the attacks from happening.
So PTS, TBI, or operator syndrome,
correct,
as a medical diagnosis of their discharge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Outside of that can be, like I told you before, sexual assault on a female.
Sure.
Right, because that's combat for them.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing. And then what happens is they go to our website and there's an application process. And this is what's kind of this is what kind of sets the mood when I have guys and gals that don't go in and read the process, right? I want you to read the process, because one thing about these dogs, it's a responsibility.
Sure.
Right? These aren't your pet dogs. Regardless of how stable and they're live animals, you're responsible for everything that happens around it. If they have a freak accident and bite somebody, guess what? That's on you.
Yeah.
Right? So I got to have guys that are turned on enough that I know that are at a healing place to where they can manage the dog and do the right thing. So my first steps start with a phone call, right? So I'm reading their program or their application, right? I'm vetting them, making sure they got a DD-214, honorably discharged. They're not having any type of self-medication, because the last thing we want is to send a dog to somebody that's self-medicating.
Right.
Like, look, I get it, right? I know why you're doing it, but we got to get you help. And one of my main things is they have to be physically seeing somebody. I don't care if it's a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist. They need to be physically being seen by a doctor. Right. And I need a doctor's note saying that, hey, they recommend, I don't want them to say a service dog would do them good, but based off of their interactions and their diagnosis, they would recommend a service dog for their medical.
He's in the right headspace
Right.
to be able to do this, right? Because if I'm going to go on a 72-hour bender, who's going to take care of my dog?
Exactly.
Right? So you got to be sure that you're in the best interest for the dog too,
Yep.
right? Because I know the veteran's the primary in your mind, but you're not gonna partner one of these dogs with somebody that can't handle it.
Right, exactly. So that's the second part of it, right? Is making sure that they're being seen and their doctors agree that a service dog would do them well or has the opportunity to do them well, right? So, and then we get the spouses or caregivers or emergency contact involved, because we're not only bringing these guys in for training.
Right.
They go if with the therapy and everything, they end up doing 2.5 weeks of training, and that last 2.5 weeks of training is we bring their spouse, caregiver,
Right.
or emergency contact with them.
Right. Because if I have to go into the hospital, long-term care, the dog's got to be familiar with my.
Yep.
And then that caretaker also needs to know how to handle it.
Exactly.
As well.
So we want to get them in. And so they get involved with the very first start. Hey, this is what you got to expect. Because the dogs, you build such a bond with your dogs. I've seen it wreck marriages.
Well, I mean, I saw when I'm holding on to your dog and you're just walking away, like that's all he cared about was you.
Yep.
And yeah, I can see how that
it's
could
either
come in
the
between.
dog is either going to strengthen your marriage or it's going to wreck it, right? So the first thing we want to see is, hey, can the spouse handle. And does the family dynamics allow a dog to come in?
Sure,
right?
what if I have other pets and I got an aggressive dog that is not a service dog?
Yeah, so we look at all aspects, and that's all part of the application process and us calling. So application comes in, we call, we read, all that good stuff. And then the next step is we want to do the therapy course, right? And then out of the 3 therapy courses is how we're going to pick who receives the dog, because that's our assessment phase in person.
Right, that's your due diligence, making sure that everything lines up correctly.
Yep. And then after that, the next step is they all come back together as a single group handler class. And then we bring them all back again with a spouse, caregiver, or emergency contact. And at the end of that class, they take the dog away. We provide them with kennels. We use canine ballistics or beds. So we show them all these different things. Hey, this is what we recommend. We give them everything they need to take this dog and go be successful in society. Right? We stay up on their training. So it's not one and done with us, right? Each year I require them to do some type of training with me, send me videos.
Or reassess.
So I can reassess and make sure, because the last thing I want is the dog to be an issue or be a pet.
Yeah.
Because they are expensive, and I have to be a good steward of people's money.
Absolutely.
Right? So if somebody doesn't do their part of the bargain, I reserve the right to take the dog, especially if there's abuse or neglect involved.
Oh, of course.
So we got to do that. So the assessment phase is very important, because the last thing I want to do is have to take a dog away from somebody, and because then they're worse. Because now they've went to rock bottom twice.
Now they failed again.
Yeah.
It's just another.
And there's no return
failure
from that. I don't see it anyways. So it's very important. And in the whole process, all the way up until it's a selection, basically, all the way up until they get the dog.
Sure.
At any time, I don't feel like there's a great match there, we pull the program. I can't afford to send dogs out that if we have issues, it's just going to add to the problem later on. Sure. So my really big thing is it starts with the guys and gals dropping their application. We physically talking, interacting with them, learning their lifestyles. We do home visits a lot of times, or have like pictures and stuff, because again, nothing's cookie cutters. So these dogs have to be trained and picked to support their lifestyle, because the dog works for us, right?
Right.
And in return, that dog is always taken care of the best way possible.
Absolutely.
Every event we went on natural disasters, my dog eat first, my dog gets clean first, and I'm always second. When we're back home, maybe not so much, right? Because he's living a really good life. But when we're working,
at home.
yeah. But when we're working, he's always taken care of before I am, because I know he's taking care of me all day long, right? through all the work that we're doing.
Keith, this has been amazing, man. And I know where you're going with it, the facility and having all those things, and I want to help you get it, man. So I want to get this episode out there, and for the viewers at home, please, if you're getting anything out of this at all, like it and share it. And I hate saying that, but it's, we need to get these stories out there, and we need to get some donations cranked in and get this facility going, man. Because this program, I've seen it work in real time. I personally know how a service dog can change somebody's life and can correct their course, right? You started to allude to it. We can heal from this. This isn't hey, congratulations, here's your medicine for the rest of your life. You're going to need to be on this for the rest of your life. No, this is proof that guys can heal. You can get back out in the world. You can go back to the store. You can go back and enjoy a day on the golf course, or go out and have a drink at a bar, whatever that looks like. And for the females that are terrified to go out anymore, right? Like, these are great opportunities it's a great tool to, again, that somebody's got your back at all times, right? And that unconditional love that these animals provide to, it's they're just phenomenal, man. Yep. So anything that I can do, that we can do here at Team Trek to support you, and I know you got a book coming out. Yeah, you're gonna write a book, right?
Yeah. So our book is a little different than the typical operator story, right? Our dog is based off of Quill and his help in society and helping those in need, and then we want to educate our kids, and we want to show them that they can be successful and help their community out. We're tired of seeing this separation, and we want to see kids given guidance on how to help, because helping people has helped me. Right. And I think if everybody helped each other more, and we teach kids at an early age that helping others is the right answer. That's right. That's where you fix the problem. It ain't with us. We're past it, man. Right?
We got to get back to that golden rule.
Yes. Yep. So we got the kids book coming out. Hopefully that'll be out in September. And ultimately, when we look at the whole overall picture, if we spell dog backwards, it spells G-O-D. Right. And amen. They're the only animals, we feel that they're the only animals that's been given us directly through God to help us walk through life. We just have to learn to communicate with them. That's right. And they're the only animal that will leave their kind to be with man. A horse will, but as soon as you stop feeding that horse, he'll go off and feed himself and never come back. But a dog will actually go out, kill something, scavenge something, and bring it back to you. So they are truly man's best friend. And as long as I'm still alive, I'm going to be using them to save lives, one dog at a time.
Love it, brother. Quill, you awake? Quill fell asleep. He said, it's break time, Dad. He said, I got your back, though. Well, Keith, Quill, thank you. There he is. There he is. Hey, buddy, thank you for making the drive. He's like, what are you doing in my face? Keith, thank you, brother, man.
Yes, sir.
And please stop by any